This is the fourth kick at the can for Andrea Horvath. What's the mood like there, Shalima?
Well, right now, there aren't that many people around, but we are expecting that is going to change over the course of this evening. Of course, Andrea Horvath has had such a storied political history here in the city of Hamilton. She was elected to Hamilton City Council in 1997 and then served multiple terms there before being elected to the legislature. So certainly there is a lot at stake tonight, and we are going to be listening in very closely to some of those results in order to learn exactly what comes next. That's the big question. But for now, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Shalima, look forward to your coverage. Thank you. We are going to go next to Vaughan and to Sean O'Shea, who is in Vaughan. Now, this is a seat and a riding that a lot of people are going to be watching because it's, of course, Steven Del Duca's riding. How are they feeling tonight, Sean?
Well, what political campaign doesn't always feel optimistic before all the votes come in? We were just a little bit disheveled here, and I've got Omar Khan, who runs the Liberal War Room. It's tough to have the really tall guy to have to interview, but so be it. Omar, give me the straight goods here. How are you guys feeling about the possibility for Steven Del Duca in this seat and for your party in this province right now?
I think we're going to have a good night tonight. We're going to be electing many new Liberal NPPs across the province of Ontario.
What's a good night, though?
I think
12, 15, 20?
We are going to see a significantly increased Liberal caucus.
Give me a number.
After tonight. I'm not going to give you a number. The people will decide. But I think we're going to have a very good night in Vaughan, and I think we're going to have a good night across Ontario.
Does Steven Del Duca win in his riding?
We'll have to wait and see what the voters decide, but I'm confident that we will have a good showing.
You were out there polling. You were out there door knocking. Your people were. What sense do they truly get?
The vibe from the people, from the canvassers at the door in Vaughan and across Ontario is positive. But again, we're going to have to wait and see what the voters have decided once the polls close. But we are confident we're going to have a very good night tonight. We're going to elect a lot of new NPPs across the province, and we're going to have a good night here in Vaughan.
Thanks, Omar. You can't pin a political guy down to hard numbers, not at 7:35 Eastern when there's still almost an hour and a half. We will see, as Omar says. We'll send it back to you.
All right. We both interviewed Omar a lot,
yes.
You and I.
Yeah.
And, he may not have said the numbers, but his voice clearly, maybe told a story.
And I think for the Liberals, really the key thing is going to be that riding. Can Steven Del Duca win where he couldn't win in 2018? I think that'll be something that'll be really interesting to watch over tonight.
Let me ask you this. What if Steven Del Duca doesn't win his riding, but the Liberals end up number 2? What happens then?
Well, I think that puts him in a strong position, because if they manage to come back from the political wilderness where they were in 2018 and actually form an opposition and win in a bunch of places they haven't won before, that really puts some wind in his sails. Okay, he was in a tough riding, tough loss for him. If that's the way it goes down, he'll probably buy himself some time, perhaps, to be able to run somewhere else once a by-election opened up. The problem is that he has tied himself so much to that riding. He talks all the time about that's his home, that's where his kids go to public school, right. All the rest of that. So it's kind of tough for him to then parachute into, I don't know, St. Catharines or Kitchener or something like that.
All right, that's something we're going to be watching throughout the night. Also curious about what else you're going to be watching for host of Focus Ontario, Global's political talk show. Alan Carter, also a very big political nerd. So what are you looking forward to? And I say that as a compliment.
Well, I do. Yeah. I capital N nerd, and I take that as a compliment. Thank you very much. I think the key is going to be the progressive vote tonight. Right. I think that is so important. The polling information that we've seen in the last week or so showed a statistical heat between the NDP and the Liberals. So who comes out on top? How do ridings like Beaches East York, for example, where there's no incumbent, I mean, that's a progressive riding. It's flipped back and forth between Liberal and NDP over the years. Does it stay NDP like it did in 2018, like it went in 2018, or does it flip back to be Liberal again?
We'll have to see. Now we want to turn things over to Tracy Tong in our panel. So much to discuss tonight, so let's get started there. Tracy.
Where do we even begin, right, Farah? We first want to give a big welcome to our panel of political commentators to provide analysis and break down what we are seeing throughout the night. First up, we have Melissa Lantsman, Conservative MP in the riding of Thornhill. She was also a senior advisor to Doug Ford and the Ontario PCs during the 2018 election. Melissa, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. Excited.
Beside Melissa, we have Sarvjit Kaur, who is the founder of KPW Communications and a Liberal strategist who has served in senior communications roles in several ministers' offices. And to Sarvjit's right, we have Kim Wright, principal at Wright Strategies. She has been a strategist and organizer for NDP campaigns for more than 2 decades. Thank you all for riding this out with us tonight. It is going to be a ride, we know that for sure, and for being, of course, an important part of Global's Decision Ontario 2022. So, after a month of campaigning, babies have been kissed, mud has been slung. These candidates have really come out and pounded the pavement, but the needle in opinion polls has barely moved. And I just want to read out some numbers here, handed to me just moments ago by Daryl Bricker of Ipsos. And he says that the PCs at the beginning of the campaign period had 39% support. At the end of it, 41%. NDP, 25 and 25 at the beginning and the end. And the Liberal Party, 24 and 24, completely unchanged. So what happened here? Was the writing already on the wall before the campaigning began? Melissa?
Well, look, campaigns matter, but this one was certainly a flat line, and I think you can chalk it up to a couple of things. There wasn't a big desire for Ontarians to see change. There wasn't, powerful campaigns from an opposition to a premier whose agenda was interrupted by a pandemic, and there was a highly disciplined premier, a highly disciplined progressive conservative campaign. So you saw the typical front-runner campaign, and I think there's lots under the surface, but that's what's happening.
Yeah. Sarbjeet, what about you? What do you think?
Well, I think a couple of things. One, it's a summer election. I don't recall in recent memory a summer provincial election. Certainly I recall times that we door knocked in the summer, but the election was usually in the fall. So people do typically kind of go into a little bit of a vacation mode. It's been a tough couple of years. And the second thing I would say is, the parties released their platforms relatively early, and you did see some movement within the campaign, some ups and downs, and then they leveled off. But I'd say with both the NDP and the Liberals releasing their platforms early, which were well received, and you did see some excitement around, for example, the Bucka Ride, and then of course the Conservatives didn't release a platform at all. They just had their budget, which they said quite explicitly that we're not announcing anything else, this is it. So I would say maybe that the excitement and the momentum was a bit more difficult to get people engaged.
Yeah. And Kim, we heard from Andrea Horwath say over and over again that the NDP had momentum. Mm-hmm. Where did that momentum go?
So what we're actually seeing in the momentum has been on the ground in individual ridings, which don't often get captured in those top line numbers that Daryl talks about and that many of the pollsters look to. We've seen a lot of momentum in ridings outside of the city of Toronto proper, places that are not traditional stomping grounds for New Democrats, places like Nipissing, certainly that Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, 401 down to Windsor corridor, as well as places across the north, which don't often get captured in those polling data. But what we're seeing has been, particularly for the New Democrats, has been on the door, taking that ground game, neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend, community to community. That type of community organizing is really how you build a movement and solidify a movement. And one of the things I'm looking for is really showcasing for New Democrats that they are not just, the third party or part of a movement, but actually ready to really make waves and be that significant participant and ready to govern.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were looking for movement, any sort of movement during this campaign. Was there a defining moment for you during this period? Sarbjeet, let's start with you.
I think, again, with the platforms were some of the most exciting ideas that we saw, with people really focusing on affordability, especially the Liberal platform. I think it came out with some really solid ideas, and you do have to think about, the fact that the Liberals came into second place with the resources, the slim resources that they had, with only 7 seats and new candidates, many of them inexperienced. That's huge gains for them to still be able to make that impact, and a lot of it speaks to the Liberal brand and people still thinking about what happened during the pandemic and worried about elder care, the privatization of long-term care, making sure hospitals and schools are going to get the investments that they need. So I think there were huge gains to be made just considering the slim resources and where the Liberals were coming from. So hats off to all those candidates and volunteers.
Well, the Liberals were really looking for a refresh here, right? Would you say that brand is still up in the air?
I think the brand has always been strong, and that fresh slate of candidates is going to go a long way in again showing what the future is for the Liberal Party, and again seeing where they placed. It's all about the brand. It's still very strong.
And not to interrupt you here, but we are actually looking at a live shot of Steven Del Duca arriving at party headquarters right now. How do you think he's feeling right now, Sarbjeet?
Well, it's been a tough campaign, but I think he has every reason to feel very optimistic and to see that he personally will do well tonight. And some of these candidates that have been working so hard and being able to really show people the difference of what a Liberal government can offer everyday working class people versus the alternative, whether it's for now or in the future, and to keep building on the gains that they make tonight.
Okay, we are going to hear a lot more from all of you in just a few minutes, but for now we're going to send things back to Farah and Alan.
All right, thank you for that, Tracy. Another place we're watching tonight, Guelph, the home of Green Party leader Mike Schreiner, and our Karen Lieberman is with the Green Party this evening. How are the Greens feeling tonight?
That's right. Well, Farah, we just learned that two of the ridings that they're watching closely, Parry Sound Muskoka and University Rosedale, are going to be delayed in reporting the results. So I'm sure they're feeling a little bit nervous because these are two of the ridings that we're watching closely tonight. Now, the Greens are looking to extend party representation at Queen's Park. Mike Schreiner has been the leader of the Greens since 2009. He made history in 2018, becoming the first elected Green MPP, but he wants a friend or two in the legislature. Looking at those two ridings that I just mentioned, where they're hoping to make gains. Schreiner also made history again during the campaign, becoming the first fourth party leader to have a presence in the televised party debate. But again, hoping for history this evening by bringing others along with him to the legislature. So we'll be watching those ridings closely. Sounds like we're going to be in it for the long haul, and we will be reporting for you live here from Guelph, and hopefully hear from Mike Schreiner himself later on here.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that. Obviously going to be a longer night for the Greens, as there's been a delay in a number of those polls, as Karen mentioned. Let's go to Daryl Bricker. Daryl from Ipsos.
Daryl.
Yeah, does it matter? Are you running? No. From Ipsos. You're a key member of our global news throughout the campaign, even though I don't remember your name, apparently. Conducting surveys, polls, crunching the numbers. Give me a sense of what people are thinking as they mark their ballots.
Today, it's really about stability. We're not talking about a lot of desire for change, and that's really what's been emblematic of what's been going on in this campaign. The opposition parties have not been able to create any momentum behind the idea of change, and the government really hasn't given enough Ontarians a reason to feel that they need to be displaced by another party. So we're almost stuck exactly at the end of this campaign where we were at the very start.
All right, we're looking at a live look of party headquarters. We saw the Conservative Party headquarters. Here's the Liberal Party headquarters. I want to dig into demographics, Daryl. Who likes each party, and how can that really play a role tonight?
Well, where the Conservatives do particularly well is outside of the downtowns of the major cities. They do well in the suburbs, and they do well in the rest of the province, but particularly well with people who are 35 years of age and older, people who are a bit more affluent, homeowners, and interestingly, parents with kids at home. Tend to be interested in the Progressive Conservative Party tonight. The Liberal Party, really no demographic strengths, and this is their problem, because their traditional demographic strengths are basically with the NDP right now, and that's younger voters in particular and the less affluent. Interesting in the race so far is that women are the most competitive demographic that we see in the research. They are about a third for each of the three major parties.
Okay, here's something that doesn't add up to me. And maybe you can help me with this, is you had a poll recently that showed that healthcare continues to be the top. It is the top issue for voters. You've also had a poll that says that people think that Andrea Horwath is the best leader to handle healthcare or to fix healthcare, but then that doesn't translate into general support. Can you explain that?
I think that's a great point, Alan. And really what it is about is that this issue not being, this election not being an issues-driven campaign. It's really about the leadership and the comfort that people have with the Premier, and the issues, even though people will say that they have big issues in the campaign, the parties that are leading on some of those issues aren't leading in this election campaign. So you can see that the issues aren't really defining how people are voting tonight.
All right.
Thanks, Daryl. We're just looking at Steven Del Duca there with his daughters heading in. He talked a lot about his daughters. If you watch the election debate, he mentioned them again and again. He's talked about his ties to Vaughan. This was just a little while ago as they went into the headquarters there. You can see him talking a little bit to the media. And part of that has been, his talk about the fact that his kids are in the public school system. He's like, I'm like you parents, and I have the same experience.
Suburban dad.
And I've lived through the same thing as you have over the course of the pandemic, and that's been part of his play.
Yeah, he's really also kind of changed his look as well. Like he got rid of the glasses, put on a vest, puffy vest, and just, yeah, he just looks like a soccer dad going from riding to riding. So it's interesting. Wonder if that image change is going to do anything for him. But let's go to Tracy Tong and our panel. And let's talk, Tracy, about how the parties have combated the polls and how they've gained momentum.
Yeah, Farah, I just gave some of those numbers that came from Daryl Bricker about how largely the opinion polls stayed the same from the beginning of the campaign period right to the end, almost identical when it comes to those comparisons. So I want to bring in our panel again just to talk about that and how that may have played in the strategy during the campaign period. Melissa, things looked pretty good for Doug Ford from the very beginning. How does he take that?
And they look pretty good right now. And oftentimes people say this is the most important election of your lifetime. You hear that every election. You probably didn't hear that this election. Nobody was saying it, and particularly the opposition wasn't saying it. So they didn't paint the picture of a referendum on Ford. They didn't paint a picture on a referendum on his leadership. And as a result, he's cruising. He's cruising to what looks like tonight a majority. I think this is going to be about voter efficiency. I think the Ford is popular everywhere in the province, and it just depends whether his Tories vote. Older people vote. That's who the Tories are stronger with. So we'll see some turnout on the Tory side.
Yeah. Now, of course, the other parties are hoping for that kind of narrative, right? That this would be a referendum on Doug Ford. And you just spoke about that. So for the other parties, how do you fight that narrative when the numbers are so strong for the PCs from the get-go?
So,
Kim.
So what we talk a lot about, and we saw Andrea Horwath talk about this during the election debate. Steven Del Duca, as Farah mentioned, talked about his kids. Great. Andrea talked about Ontarians who were struggling. She talked in particular, what struck me was the gentleman from Paris, Ontario, who couldn't get mental health supports as a child, couldn't get them as a teen, couldn't get them as a young adult, and tried to take his own life. Recognizing what has been at stake, what has been the lived experience of Ontarians, why you want to make it better and how you can do that. And well, I appreciate that that is not the situation that everyone finds themselves in. Everyone knows somebody who has found themselves in that situation. And that is why we're seeing the conversations on the doorstep. The thousands and thousands of volunteers who have come out for New Democrat candidates across the province who are right now knocking on doors and saying, yes, I need you to come vote, because what we're seeing is some pretty low voter turnout numbers. So when we say every vote matters, they absolutely do. And, for political nerds like Alan and I and others, Ernie Eves only won his first election by 6 votes. When all was said and done, 6 votes. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, it does. And you've got about an hour. Go out to your local polling station, especially if you want that New Democrat to win. Get out there and vote, because it does matter. Because you want that kind of a government, vote for the government you want.
And you talk about making sure that every voter comes out and every vote counts. Sarbjeet, we heard Daryl speaking just moments ago about women being a key demographic and that playing into the campaign. How did that play into Steven Del Duca's campaign?
Yeah, I think the Liberals were mindful from the beginning of being able to show a very clear delineation in terms of what the priorities would be. Do you want to invest $10 billion into a highway, or do you want to invest that money into schools? Do you want to vote for a party that is giving, rapid tests and special access to private schools, or do you want to make sure the public schools are preserved? And I would say I feel that the voters in a way were cheated out of a chance to really debate these issues and have these conversations, because the Conservatives campaigned very similar to the way that they rule. Not having media availability, not participating in debates. Local candidates were told by the party not to participate. So basically, be quiet, stay out of sight, hope for the best, and it's not really conducive to a conversation, which is what an election is really all about.
Yeah, we'll see what comes out of this election and how Ontario votes in very shortly. 7:54 right now. Polls close in just over an hour. We're going to send things back to you, Farah and Alan, for now, but we'll bring back the panel in just a little bit.
All right, Tracy, that's great. Thank you. And I know somebody who's chomping at the bit to get involved in this discussion, so we're going to go right to him. Here is David Aiken. David.
And Alan, you'll remember Ernie Eves, that 8-vote win that Kim mentioned. Yeah. And they called him Landslide Ernie after that. I think they bought him a hockey jersey with the number 8 on it. Well, let's go back to 2018. Scarborough-Guildwood. Mitzi Hunter is the Liberal incumbent. And I'm going to take you to 2018. Here's the results. Landslide Mitzi. Closest race. She won by 74 votes in 2018, and we were on this riding all night long. It took a long time to resolve itself. Landslide Mitzi from 2018. She's going to win by more than that, I'm pretty sure, because one of the stories we're going to talk about tonight is the Liberal recovery. And whatever the campaign did, there was just going to be some inertia from that awful 2018 campaign. The party did not get official party status. 7 seats, just the worst ever showing in Ontario's history for a major party. So the Liberals are going to resuscitate. Where's it going to happen? I'm going to put right here in Midtown Toronto, Eglinton Lawrence. The Liberals, there's some like-to-have ridings. These are the kind of must-have ridings if Steven Del Duca or any future leader is going to show that the Liberals are recovering. So Mike Cole was the MPP in this riding from when it was created in 1999 until he got beat in 2018 by Robin Martin. Robin is the progressive conservative incumbent tonight. She'll be in a tough fight in a riding that I think is the first one I should see in the Liberal column tonight. And if you know Toronto, we were up there, Midtown, Eglinton Lawrence. Let's just walk down Yonge Street and you're going to run into a whole bunch of other ridings now held by the NDP that the Liberals have to win. And we go underneath there to the next one, Toronto St. Paul's. Jill Andrew is the incumbent there, the New Democrat. The Liberal are running a doctor you might have seen on Twitter during the pandemic, Nathan Stahl. Good catch for the Liberals. That's a riding, Toronto St. Paul's. Again, it's been Liberal forever, and the NDP just kind of lucked into it. Jill had a great 4 years. Can she hold on? I'm not so sure. We'll see. That's a must-have riding for the Liberals. And we keep walking down Yonge Street, and we get to University Rosedale. Karen Lieberman mentioned this will be one of the ridings reporting late, probably about a half an hour or so late. And I think we do now. It's going to be a fight. The NDP hold it. Andrea Barrick is running for the Liberals. Jessica Bell is running for the New Democrats. We don't think the PCs will be impacted here. As some wags say, not enough Rosedale, too much University for the PCs to be a factor. It's a straight up fight here. And this is where it starts to get some really tussles. Underneath that, we get to Spadina Fort York. And right in the middle there, this one I'm going to be watching all night long, Toronto Centre. New Democrat here, Suze Morrison, did not decide to re-offer. She won last time. The Liberal, David Morris, he ran in 2018. He's back again. And Kristen Wong-Tam, a lot of Torontonians will recognize her name. She was on City Council. This was a great get for the NDP to get a candidate of the caliber of Kristen to replace Suze Morrison. I think this is going to be a dogfight. 5 points is going to decide the winner. So there you go. Walk down Yonge Street. That's your story of your Liberal revival. I'm going to be watching that set of ridings right there.
Thank you so much, David. I got my eye also on Beaches East York. I know that's right in that range, too. I keep talking about it. I was a part of an all candidates thing this week, where a debate, and again, another example where the Conservative was not there in a number of cases
and
like
also
that.
City Councillor, former City Councillor.
That's right. Mary Margaret McMahon. And David mentioned University Rosedale. That is one of those ridings that is going to be delayed tonight by at least 55 minutes. A number of polls delayed, going to be open a little bit later. So we're not going to get any results from them until a little bit later.
And that's also another one that the Greens are looking
with Diane Sachs,
right,
the former Environment Commissioner.
Yeah, Deputy Leader of the Greens. So we'll be watching that. What do you think is a win for the Liberals tonight?
That's a great question. I mean, you know, when you come back from where you were in 2018, like we've heard Omar Khan saying that he wouldn't give a number. I think in the mid-20s, I think they got to be pretty happy. I think that what they really want is second place. They want to be official opposition.
Right, and that's again what you're looking at. Who's number 2?
Yeah, we're number 2. Who gets to shout that at the end of the night?
Yeah, and then of course we were watching the NDP, and for the Greens, it's just getting more than that one seat, but also getting more popular votes, so they get more money, and that would also be a win, right?
Yeah, if they could get over 5, 6, 7% of popular vote, that would for Mike Schreiner be a win.
But they're playing the long game. I mean, this is not something that's going to change overnight for them, and they're hoping that tonight at least is a bit of a shift. Thanks for watching.
Stay with us.
It's time to get paving, and it's time to get it done.
Job number 1 is getting rid of Doug Ford.
These aren't talking points. These are real ideas that are captivating the imagination of Ontarians.
If Mr. Ford's going to talk about the jobs of the future, then why is he so actively hostile about the jobs of the future?
You both made your points.
Calm down here.
We're going to get it done.
Welcome to Decision Ontario 2022. Thank you so much for joining us as we guide you through this provincial election. I'm Alan Carter.
And I'm Farah Nasser, and we're so glad you're here with us. Our team here at Global News is ready to bring you the latest from the victory parties to the concession speeches and, of course, everything in between. In addition to watching us here on TV, you can also join us online on our YouTube channel, Facebook page, and on all our streaming platforms.
We are also simulcasting all night on our network of talk radio stations throughout this province. You can tune in on 640 Toronto, 900 CHML in Hamilton, and 980 CFPL in London. And you can also engage with us tonight on social media. Our Queen's Park Bureau Chief Colin DeMello offering insights and analysis on Twitter, and follow along at globalnews.to.
Yeah.
Can I do that one more time? At globalnews.to.
Sorry, did I interrupt you? All I wanted to say was I'm so looking forward to Colin's insights tonight. So no matter where your night takes you, you can touch base with Global News all night in whichever medium suits you best in the moment.
Now, our reporters are with the four main party leaders tonight. Our Matthew Bingley is with Doug Ford and the Progressive Conservatives. Shalima Maharaj is spending the evening with the NDP.
And our Sean O'Shea is at Liberal headquarters, and Karen Lieberman with the Greens tonight. And, you know, it would not be a Global News election special without the man who has an encyclopedic knowledge of not only the ridings in Ontario, but all of Canada, the one and only David Aiken. He's keeping a close eye on each of the 124 races underway tonight.
Our Tracy Tong is with us tonight as well. She'll be speaking with our panel. A lot of topics to be covered there. And we cannot forget Daryl Bricker, CEO of Ipsos Public Affairs. Daryl has been keeping an eye on the polls leading up to tonight. We're going to check in with him to learn more about how Ontarians feel about this campaign.
Yeah, we're so lucky to have Daryl with us tonight. Now, the polls close at 9, but there are some ridings where polling stations have been given extensions for various reasons. Results from 19 polling stations are going to be delayed anywhere between 10 minutes and 2 hours. While a polling station is still open, no results are going to be reported from that riding. Let's go right to our party headquarters. As we mentioned, Matthew Bingley is with the Progressive Conservatives tonight. You know, Matthew, I know the polls are still closed, it's still early, but just set the stage for us. What's behind you? What's happening?
Well, setting the stage for you, there is a literal stage. That is where Doug Ford will be coming up later on tonight as the party strategists, as I've been speaking with, very confident as they are heading into this, still trying to hold on to that cautious optimism, though, but they are feeling that they have done everything as they've been running this campaign. The candidates stayed on message, they controlled that message, and really focused on that get it done really theme of this. Case in point, just off to the left of me here is the tour bus with that slogan, get it done, on it next to Doug Ford's face. Now, the balloons are up in the rafters. They think they have what it takes to get this all going and hopefully pick up some spaces, some ridings that they have not held before, traditionally areas that are held by the NDP. One seat, I'm told, in some of those areas would be a good night, two, a great one. I'm going to hand it off now to my colleague Shalima Maharaj, who's in the NDP campaign headquarters.
Well, thanks so much for that, Matt. We are here in Hamilton. Of course, this has been a stronghold for Andrea Horwath. I'm going to step out of the way here so you can take a look at where we are. So you see the tour bus here, strong, ready, working for you. That's what's been on this tour bus. So Andrea Horwath, of course, has had a very storied political career here. We've seen her hold position in City Council. She was elected in 1997, served 3 terms before being elected to the legislature in 2004. She's been at the helm of the party since 2009. There is a lot on the line here and a lot of questions swirling around her future in politics. Will she remain on as the leader of this party, or will she pursue other options? So some big questions here, and a lot expected to come down this evening. Of course, you talked about vying for that second position. Of course, we did see that the NDP was able to get 40 seats in that last election. Whether or not they were able to hold on to the momentum gained, that is another big question. But for now, I am going to send things over to our colleague, Sean O'Shea, who is standing by in Woodbridge with the Liberals.
Well, Shalima, we're at the Paramount event space up here. This is, in fact, Liberal headquarters for the Del Duca campaign, for the provincial Liberals here tonight. The leader of the Liberal Party, Steven Del Duca, arrived here about 7:30. He came in with his wife and his two daughters. They are right now upstairs in a room. They'll be watching the results coming in, and those results may be very telling tonight, because not only is Steven Del Duca the leader of the party, trying to get as many seats as possible for the party, he's also trying desperately to win this seat here in Woodbridge, because he lost this seat last time around. He does not hold a seat right now. It's critical that he get a seat tonight. The polls show, internal polls show, it's very tight, and it's going to be very tough. And if he doesn't win a seat tonight, it's not necessarily the end of Steven Del Duca as the leader of the party, not by a long shot, but they desperately want to get a seat for him tonight and, of course, get a lot more seats for this party. So this is going to be a really very interesting place to be tonight. We'll send it over now to Karen Lieberman. She's with the Green Party, and she's in Guelph tonight.
Thank you so much, Sean. Well, Mike Schreiner is looking to grow the Green Party's presence at Queen's Park. Now, this is a person who made history in 2018, becoming the first Green MPP at Queen's Park. He made history again over the campaign when he became the first fourth party leader to take part in the televised party leaders debate. And hey, he's looking to make history again tonight by bringing a couple of friends along with him for the ride to Queen's Park. Two ridings in particular that we're following closely, where the Greens are hoping to make gains, and unfortunately these are the two of the ridings where we've heard that there have been delays reported tonight, so we'll be watching those closely. That's University Rosedale, where the former environmental commissioner Diane Sachs is hoping to win the seat, and we'll also be watching very closely Parry Sound Muskoka. This is a longtime PC stronghold, but there is no incumbent and there is no Liberal candidate, so Matt Richter, who is going for it for the fifth time as a candidate, is hoping to take that seat. So a couple of races, they could be tight races, and they are the locations where the Greens are hoping to make gains. And we are in Guelph. We'll be here throughout the night, and we will bring you all the updates.
All right, we'll be watching closely. Thanks so much. Now, before the results start pouring in, we just want to give you a quick explanation about what you're seeing here on your screen. If you're watching us online, you can click on your riding and you can get updated results anytime. But for those of you who are watching us on TV or on our app, you can see there's a lot of information going on right now on your screen.
This is where we're going to show you the live results as they're reported by Elections Ontario. At the bottom of the screen, you see the overall standings, leading or elected. Each party is trying to get to 63 seats. 63 is your magic number in the province of Ontario. That means 63 or above, you have a majority. Along the side, you'll see the results for each of the 124 ridings. You just keep watching and yours will come up shortly.
I just also want to point out, Alan, the countdown clock, because there is a countdown until the polls close, and you can see that's at 51 minutes right now, and we'll keep updating you throughout this hour on any information we have, and then the results as they pour in at 9. Stay tuned for that.
Now, the last 4 years have been packed with drama, scandal, cuts. Of course, COVID-19, it has kept provincial leaders busy.
That's right. Our Queen's Park Bureau Chief Colin DeMello worked with our reporter Erica Vella to look back at key moments during Ford's term as Premier and where the province stands now.
It's been the center of conversation for the last 4 years. A long-standing government cast aside.
I will no longer be Ontario's premier.
A new party sweeping into power.
This is your victory. Tonight is your night.
And a premier who got swept up in politics. What followed were some of the most eventful years in Ontario's political history. A scandal over an OPP commissioner.
There was no better choice, a transparent choice, by the way, that I wasn't involved in whatsoever.
A battle with the City of Toronto.
It is the most dysfunctional political arena in the country, City Hall.
A fight with Ontario's teachers. And a budget chock full of cuts.
We have developed a reasonable
path to balance.
His polling plummeted as Doug Ford faced a dissatisfied public.
We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
Ontario has confirmed its second presumptive case.
But then the Premier was presented with a significant challenge, one that no other premiers faced in 100 years.
We will not lose this battle. We will get ahead of this.
COVID-19 gave Ford a second chance, and he rose to the occasion.
All done.
But brimming with confidence, Ford was soon accused of ignoring medical advice, sending Ontario spinning in a cycle of waves and lockdowns. Caught in the middle, 2 million Ontario students, thousands of Ontario business owners, seniors in long-term care, and the healthcare system on the brink.
It's absolutely shocking that it seems once again the Ford government has forgotten about long-term care. How can that possibly be?
The strain led to a fractured caucus, unpopular cabinet decisions, and tearful apologies.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry we acted too quick.
Then the government changed direction and focused on the election, promising to fix long-term care, invest in hospitals, build schools, and help the working class of the province. The gambit paid off. The Progressive Conservatives were back on top of the polls. Now, the question for voters: give Doug Ford a second term in office or pick a new premier? During the campaign, the NDP leader made her case.
He's just not ready to form a government, but we are.
Horwath promised to invest in healthcare, in education, and in people. But public confidence in Horwath began to fall. Can she climb back?
Next leader of the Ontario Liberal Party and the next Premier of Ontario, Mr. Steven Del Duca.
He is the new leader on the block, chosen to bring the Ontario Liberals back from the ashes and back into government. Steven Del Duca made a pitch to the province. The party under him has changed.
Ontario Liberals have put forward more new ideas that are compelling, that will make life better and more affordable for the people of this province.
Can Del Duca defy expectations?
I'm looking forward to electing more Green MPPs to join me at Queen's Park.
And could Ontario history be made by electing a second Green Party member? A debate performance that seemed to win over voters. How many will give Mike Schreiner's party a try? After 4 chaotic years, this is where we stood. Doug Ford's Progressive Conservatives, 67 seats. Andrea Horwath's NDP, 38 seats. Steven Del Duca's Liberals have 7 seats, and Mike Schreiner's Greens at 1 seat. Tonight, voters will have their say over what the Ontario legislature will look like for the next 4 years.
A great summary there by our Queen's Park Bureau Chief Colin DeMello and our reporter Erica Vella. Now, if you're a numbers person and maybe you were adding up all those numbers, you're probably thinking that doesn't add up to 124. There's some very good reasons for that. Alan.
You're going to make me do math? I got to take my shoes and socks off and count. Well, the reason for that is that we've had a number of MPPs either switch parties altogether. A number of Progressive Conservatives booted out of the caucus over the course of the pandemic for various reasons. Belinda Carahalios, for example, now running for the New Blue Party. In other cases, you've got Imani Simard, who was elected as a Progressive Conservative in the Ottawa area, is across the floor, now running as a Liberal. So there's all of these sort of mix-ups, these family feuds. You think of the NDP, one of their longtime MPPs in the Hamilton area, Paul Miller, was booted from the party, and he's running as an independent tonight. I love this, too. He's decided that his sign color would be burnt orange. Burnt orange.
If that doesn't send a message, I don't know what does. Yeah, that's interesting. And also vaccines, right?
Yeah.
Mandates, votes against people have gotten turf. There's been a lot of drama, right? There
has been. And, Doug Ford had such a big majority last time around that he could afford to leak all of these MPPs or either cross the floor. At one point, there was a sort of a rump of independents sitting at Queen's Park all on their own off to the back corner. But he had enough members that it never really threatened his majority.
And you know what? When we talk about majority 63, I mean, I think 64, 65 might be a little bit better in case that happens again or somebody has a cold during a big vote or whatever. You want, you know, more than 63.
That's absolutely true. And so that gives you a bit of a wiggle room if you get over that key 63 number. And keep in mind, once the polls close, those are the numbers across the bottom of your screen that you'll see leading and elected when we do get results coming in.
44 minutes and counting. The other number to keep in mind tonight is 8, right? That is the official party status number for the Liberals. They're expected to get more than that, but just keep that in mind when you look at the little red box below me.
All right, let's go to Tracy Tong and our panel now. Tracy, lots to discuss.
Yeah, a lot of backstories and a lot of side stories and backgrounds to dive into here, Alan and Farah. We have a powerhouse panel standing by with us tonight to provide analysis, break down what we are seeing throughout the exciting evening. Conservative Member of Parliament and former spokesperson and senior advisor for Doug Ford, Melissa Lantsman, is here with us. Sarjit Kaur, who was a Liberal staffer and communications expert. And beside her, we have longtime NDP strategist Kim Wright. So, we know what Ontario's future will look like is being decided right now. And the political future for each party leader also in the works. Melissa, I want to ask you first, having worked closely with Doug Ford in the 2018 election, which he won, of course, how has he grown into the role of Premier, and how would a 2022 Doug Ford as Premier look different from 2018 Doug Ford?
Well, look, I think you saw lots of this in this campaign. He's certainly grown as a leader, a disciplined leader. I think he's expanded his voter universe. This is the one big story that many don't talk about, is the union support just lining up after around Doug Ford. And I think his future is, he's probably going to be Premier at the end of the night, and he's got a very ambitious agenda that he's talked about with a solid campaign, a solid ad campaign to match it, and the support of what seems to be the majority of voters in Ontario tonight.
We know that the pandemic was all-consuming for a lot of his leadership in this province. What could you see him tackling in the next 4 years?
Well, I think the pandemic was a big interruption to the agenda and not one that he had any control of. But I think you saw a full-scale change in Doug Ford. I think you saw somebody who was combative at the very beginning of his first mandate to somebody that he's winning this election on himself. He's not winning it on the work of the ministers, on the work of the government. He's winning it because of his leadership. So it's a testament to the lack of campaign on the other side, the fact that nobody wants change in Ontario, and very much his leadership throughout the pandemic.
All right, Kim, I will let you respond to that lack of campaign comment on the NDP side. We do know that this is Andrea Horwath's fourth try as party leader at the province's top job. We also want to know what her political future is, because that's one question that she's kind of been dodging in the recent days.
Well, what I'm actually, I look to experience. Experience actually matters. And, when you need to understand how to fix what is broken in Ontario, having somebody at the helm who understands government, who's got a caucus that is, far and away some of the best critics that this province has seen. I look at people like Franche from Nickel Belt. She has been a phenomenal health critic for years, knows every bit of that ministry forwards and backwards. So when I hear that there's a lot of agenda for the Premier, should he be re-elected, I wonder which Premier we'll get, because at that first Premier, it was massive cuts to those promises to the autistic community, where Lisa MacLeod famously said, basically, here, give them an iPad. Are we going back to those days? Are we going back to a Doug Ford that talks about putting an iron ring around long-term care, but what we only saw was a ring of hearses lining up during COVID to pick up people? These are the things that Ontarians have to ask themselves what they're looking for. And many of them, if they're sitting at their TV and, gosh, I love them watching us, but if you haven't gone and voted, go vote for what it is that you actually want in Ontario. Go get out and go vote for that. What comes next for Andrea Horwath? Look, Gary Dewar, the former Premier of Manitoba, it was his fourth election before he became Premier. So again, experience is a good thing. We'll see what happens, but I know one thing for sure. Andrea Horwath is winning her seat tonight. I'm not sure about one of the other leaders.
All right. One of the other leaders, and that was directed at you, Sarpreet, would be Steven Del Duca. He was handed a tall task with leading this Liberal Party in a refresh mode. Do you think that he was the right person at this time, given his close ties to Kathleen Wynne, when so many people wanted to be rid of that?
You know, I think anyone can speculate. There's a million different reasons people choose what they choose. I would say, you know, speaking about going forward, everybody needs the time to take stock. I really respect voters. I respect the process. And all three parties, even the person who wins, you still are the premier of all Ontarians, even those who didn't vote for you. So you need to be listening to what message people were sending and what their priorities are. For the Ford government, I would say anyone would be very hard pressed to point to any specific big initiative. Granted, you know, there was the COVID interruption, but the going into the election was basically him reversing things that he had, you know, put a halt to coming in. So, you know, freezing minimum wage increases. Now going into the election, he said, oh, well, okay, now we'll increase them. Those hospitals that he canceled, suddenly saying, well, now we can have a hospital and now we can invest. So where is the policy or the vision that you see other governments leaving as a legacy, like full day kindergarten or OHIP Plus, which is prescription drugs? So I'd really be curious to see if this government is ever going to deliver that for Ontarians.
Would you say that Steven Del Duca was the star leader that the Liberal Party was hoping for during this time, or?
I think Steven Del Duca, he really shone at what he's got good strengths at, which is work ethic, policy, speaking, being available, not being afraid to face media or his opponents, and having an excellent platform that really spoke to the priorities of Ontarians.
All right. Thank you so much for all of that excellent insight. We are going to return to the panel in just a few moments, but first we're going to send things back to Farah and Alan.
All right, Tracy. Yeah, that was great. Great to hear from our insider panel. I just want to mention something. Colin DeMello just reminded me that the official party status for the Liberals, not 8, it is actually 12. Doug Ford increased that official party status to 12. He also mentioned that right now at the Conservative Party headquarters, there is a tweet that says they are selling beer, domestic and foreign beer, for $12. So much for a buck of beer, Alan.
$12?
$12 for a beer.
Runaway inflation. Let's go to David Aiken. David, everything is more expensive. You're watching where the leaders are tonight in terms of what's going on in their ridings.
One beer is $12, not 12 beers for $12. That's ridiculous. Let's talk more about the leaders. We're going to be watching them all night. What we've got up here is the map of Ontario, of course. It's all gray because we don't have any results. Results start coming in shortly after 9 o'clock. In fact, in 2018, the first results were at 9:04. So you want to be right close here. And no one will have results quicker than Global News. No one, I guarantee you. Now, here we are for 2022. No results just yet. Let's take a look at where those four leaders are running. This is the results in 2018. 2018 here, folks, not today. And we saw a lot of blue, a little bit of green. That's a breakthrough right there. But let's see who the leaders are facing tonight. We'll start down there in Hamilton Centre. Andrea Horwath, it's her fourth election as the leader. She is running. If there's going to be any challenge in Hamilton Centre, very progressive riding, it's going to come from the Liberals. But again, we think Andrea Horwath will be pretty comfortable here. We go up Highway 6, up to Guelph, happens to be my hometown, where there was a big breakthrough in 2018, where Mike Schreiner became the first Green candidate ever to win an election in Ontario. We think Mike Schreiner, the leader of the party, should be in good shape in Guelph. I was there just a couple of days ago. A lot of support for him downtown, a little less so on the outside of Guelph, but that's Schreiner. Then we go up to the two leaders back to back that we're going to watch tonight. First of all, there's the king of Etobicoke, Doug Ford, in Etobicoke North. That's where his home is. That's where he's likely to win tonight. And right above Etobicoke North, that is Vaughan-Woodbridge. And that is where we're going to be looking all night long, where Steven Del Duca is trying to win. Let's go back to 2018. You'll see it was blue at the end of the night in 2018. In 2018, Del Duca got thumped by Michael Tobolo, the Conservatives, who is now in Doug Ford's cabinet. Tobolo won by 8,000 votes practically. That's 2018. So Del Duca, even though he's the leader, even though he's got likely additional help up there, he's got to overcome 8,000 votes. He had the opportunity as leader perhaps to say, maybe I should run in Eglinton Lawrence, etc. But as we've heard from the panelists, Del Duca says this is his home. He's raised his kids there. He shops there every Saturday and Sunday. And you can't argue with a guy for that. That's where he wants to run and try and win. But it's going to be difficult. We'll be keeping our eye all night long on the race up in Vaughan-Woodbridge tonight. Steven Del Duca, really the only leader we expect who will be any kind of jeopardy.
All right, certainly a risk there. Okay, let's talk, Ellen, because we go from one political nerd, and I say that with affection, David, to another, host of Focus Ontario, our political affairs talk show here on Global. Ellen also lives and breathes Ontario politics.
Who are you?
Sorry, I appreciate it.
But just sandwiched between the nerds.
I do, but yeah, maybe I don't, dream about it like you guys probably do. Let me ask you this though. What are you looking for tonight? Like, what are you really going to be paying attention to as the main storyline?
I think it's going to have to be the splits between the progressive vote. I think it's at the end of the night who gets to jump up and down and shout, "We're number two, we're number two," because I think that's really the interesting race here is, can the Liberals come back and win those ridings that David pointed out that they absolutely must have, the road to redemption for the Liberal Party, those Liberal strongholds that they always used to take that were just kind of no-brainers, the Scarboroughs, in London. Those are the places that they absolutely need to win tonight, and I think that is really what I'll be watching for.
And did these parties that usually get, well, especially the NDP, did they play enough defense in areas like Hamilton or Niagara or Windsor? Like, did they try to reach out too far and not protect what they had? So that'll be.
And I think it's interesting too. If you looked at the platforms of the NDP and the Liberals, they're very similar, and you've heard that again and again over this campaign. They're kind of fishing from the same pier. And they're
attacking each other at the same time.
And there's an animosity between the progressive parties that I think has surprised some people, and I think for progressive voters has been a little dispiriting.
And it's interesting because on the federal level, these two parties are working together, these two exact same parties. So lot to dissect tonight. We've got to sneak in a quick break, but we'll be back with more election coverage right after this. I hope you stay with us. You're watching Decision Ontario. Thanks for staying with us.
Polls close in a little bit more than 30 minutes in most ridings. We have a number of ridings where there has been a delay tonight, so there'll be some late results coming in tonight. You can see the clock at the bottom of your screen there. That gives you a sense of how long we have to go before those results start coming in, and they're going to come in pretty quickly as well. But let's go to Matthew Bingley, who's at PC headquarters tonight, with more on how they're feeling there. Matt.
Well, Alan, I'm joined here by Ginny Roth, a Conservative Party strategist. And Ginny, I'm just wondering, you look at the side of the bus, get it done. Why was that message one that the PCs thought would be something that would really connect with people?
Well, I think what the PCs did is they got Ford's favorability back up by sort of moving out of COVID, showing strong leadership, moving past some of the stuff that people were done with the pandemic. And then the appetite for change was kind of down. And so with Get It Done, it was sort of like, let me finish the job, right? Let me build things. And the build things is important because there's talking about highways, hospitals, particularly Highway 413, where we know, I think, the opposition parties kind of stepped into his trap a little bit and they opposed it. And that's a great wedge. You're seeing, I think, a lot of Ontarians saying, I'm sitting in traffic all the time. I just want to get home to my family. And yeah, we probably need to build some highways.
But talking about Highway 413, that is a very regional highway. A lot of the areas that we saw the PC campaign focus on, Windsor, areas that are far removed from this kind of infrastructure. How do you connect to those types of voters at the same time?
Sure. Well, I think people have noticed that this time around, and this is pretty unprecedented, something like 6 or 8 labor unions have come out and endorsed the Ontario PCs. I was involved in Ontario PC politics when they were fighting against us, spending millions of dollars to cause us to lose. And so that's a real shift. That's a real shift. I think it's a cultural one. Mm-hmm. You see blue-collar, working-class people, middle-income people too, who share Ford's values, who kind of like his style. He's pretty folksy. They feel like he's one of them, and he's speaking to them. And he's not talking about ideologically right-wing things. He's talking about building things, which if you work in the trades you care about. He's talking about moving on from COVID, and he's not getting distracted by sort of silly announcements like the Ontario Liberals announced they want to bring back grade 13. I think people are saying, I don't care about that. Gas is too expensive. This is the guy that brought the carbon tax. I want to be able to drive places faster, and it's that simple.
But at the same time, dropping gas tax for 6 months, it's temporary. Will that be something that will perhaps be a long-term strategy for him?
Yes, I think, look, Ford is not a fiscal conservative in the sense of slashing deficits and slashing spending. He's never going to be that guy, and I don't think there's really an appetite for it, but he is a fiscal conservative on cutting taxes and fees. The driver's license fee, the renewal fee, like all sorts of things that when affordability is a crisis, when inflation is what it is, gas prices are what they are, people are literally making choices at the grocery store because they can't afford it. Every little bit counts. Every little fee that he can drop, every little tax that he can find to save people $100 a year, massive difference. And I think he will absolutely keep on that train. It's the train his brother started with, the gravy train. It's that same low tax environment that people want, and it's pretty populist, and people seem to really like it.
Okay, we're talking about dropping the cost of living. The balloons up there are hoping to drop in something of a celebration. I'll send it to you back at the desk for now.
Thanks very much, Matt. And I don't think I can stress enough how wild it is that Pat Dillon, who used to be part of Working Families, has now endorsed the Progressive Conservative. Tim Hudak somewhere is weeping in a beer because that
$12 beer.
That organization, campaigned so hard against the Progressive Conservatives in campaigns past, had a real impact on the outcome. The Progressive Conservatives was a boogeyman for them, and now to have that endorsement going the other way, that's enormous. Let's head over to our friends at Global Kingston. Bill Hutchins is standing by with a look at that region.
Hey, thanks, Alan and Farah. We're watching 5 ridings in southeastern Ontario tonight. Voters elected Conservative MPPs in 4 of them back in 2018. Now, this time around, a much different picture where 3 incumbents are not running again. We'll start in Kingston and the Islands. And by the way, we are in front of Kingston City Hall right now. This is believed to be a very close race between the Liberals and the NDP. New Democrats won this riding from the Liberals in 2018. That's when voters bailed big time on the Liberals, province-wide under Kathleen Wynne. The NDP candidate this time around is Mary Rita Holland, hoping to hold this riding for the NDP. Ted Hsu is the Liberal candidate. Over in Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston, well, this has been Randy Hillier country for 15 years. Viewers may recall his anti-lockdown crusade got him into a lot of trouble with the party and police. He's not running this time, so we will have another wide-open contest. Conservatives have John Jordan as their candidate, hoping voters will stick with the party. So in Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes, long title, very scenic riding and very conservative. Former Cabinet Minister Steve Clark has owned this riding for the PC since 2010. He's expected to keep the PC train rolling again in a field of 9 candidates. Liberal Josh Bennett is past chair of the Brockville Santa Parade. He's hoping that Christmas comes early. Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Conservative incumbent Darryl Cramp not seeking re-election, but well-known local Mayor Rick Brzee is trying to hold this riding for the Conservatives. He's up against against Ted Darby for the Liberals and Eric Depot for the NDP. Another candidate to watch for in this race is Derek Sloan. It'll be interesting to see how he does with voters. He's a former Conservative MP running now for the Ontario Party. And lastly, Bay of Quinte, another Ford Cabinet Minister Todd Smith aiming for his 4th election win. He's very popular in Belleville and Prince Edward County, which is wine country, winning 48% of the vote in 2018. Again, this riding has been a Conservative stronghold, and it's expected to remain that way tonight. So those are the 5 races that we are watching in southeastern Ontario. Will it remain a sea of blue around Kingston? And what color will this riding be? Will it be red or orange? We'll find out later as soon as the polls close in about 25 minutes from now. We'll get those results for you hot out of the oven. Or is it fresh from the $12 beer cooler? Anyway, I'll send it back to you.
Nice job.
Bill Hutchinson, Kingston. Thank you so much, Bill.
All right. Daryl Bricker is in with us all night from Ipsos. He's CEO of Ipsos. Daryl, I want to really understand this because I just don't get it. Okay, so let's talk about the NDPs and the Liberals for a moment, right? What happened to them? They appear to have little or no traction heading into tonight. Was that the story from the beginning, or was there just no moment?
Well, you know, it's really interesting. When you go out and you take a look at the votes, I mean, we've been talking about how well we expect Doug Ford to do tonight, but there's more people who are going to vote against Doug Ford tonight than are going to vote for him. So the question is, what happened in terms of uniting that opposition vote behind a single choice? As long as the Liberals and the NDP are getting equivalent amounts of the electorate, they're splitting in a perfect way, which allows Doug Ford to come up the middle. So the problem that happened through the course of this campaign is that initial part of the campaign, which is really that progressive primary where one of the parties sort of moves ahead and becomes the champion for taking on the progressive Conservatives, didn't happen. It didn't dig in. There was no choice made, and as a result, it's going to be a pretty easy night for the Premier and his party.
I think what's interesting is, you know, we had 15 years of Liberal rule where the Liberals were able to win that progressive primary, Daryl, each and every time. And tonight, now we have a kind of a toss-up for second place. Do we have any idea who has the edge?
Well, I think that there's 2 things going on here. There's the Liberal brand, which still has strength in the province of Ontario, spilling over from federal politics, I would argue as well. And then you've got the NDP with incumbency. So they won a whole bunch of seats from the Liberal Party last time. And having an incumbent party, an incumbent candidate in a riding, means that you probably have a good organization, which means you can get the vote out. If this is going to be a low turnout election campaign, I think the incumbency favors the NDP. So the popular vote may be a little bit more for the NDP tonight, but I think the seat count is going to be considerably better than it is for the Liberal Party.
Daryl, I have one more question before we let you go. You know, you're seeing these 19 ridings that are going to be trickling in slower than the other ones. Is that going to make any impact in terms of when we're going to get the call tonight?
Well, I think that's, you know, going to be up to people who like to make calls on these things. But no, I think once the votes start rolling in, it's going to become pretty clear pretty fast. I mean, one of the things that we've seen in this campaign is a huge consensus among the polls as to what the outcome is. So unless the polls are completely wrong, and sometimes they are, but unless the polls are completely wrong, I think it's going to be a pretty early night.
All right. Yeah, we all remember 2016, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Okay.
I was there.
All right. Thanks, Daryl. Let's bring in Carrie Ferguson from the bellwether that is Peterborough. She joins us now. Peterborough has voted for the winning party since 1971 in terms of who they've elected for MPP. Over to you, Carrie.
Yeah, Farah Allen, hello from Peterborough. We'll be covering off 3 ridings in Peterborough, Kawarthas, Northumberland for you tonight. This whole part of the province was a sea of blue after the last provincial election in 2018. Will it stay that way tonight? We'll find out soon. So let's begin with Peterborough, Kawartha. We have been a bellwether since 1977. We have elected a representative from the winning party for 12 straight elections. But leading up to tonight, this riding is being considered too close to call, with the PCs and Liberals believed to be neck and neck, but the NDP also thinks they've got a good chance of pulling off a win. Dave Smith is the PC incumbent. He's seeking a second term. He's being challenged by the Liberals' Greg Dempsey, born and raised in Peterborough. He's a lawyer. He's done a lot of work with Global Affairs Canada, Jen Deck with the NDP. Okay, we are going to head over to Northumberland, Peterborough South. It's a very different story here for this large riding that runs from Clarington to Brighton. It is considered to be a PC stronghold tonight. David Piccini is the incumbent here. He is looking for a second term. Pacini has really made a name for himself over the last 4 years. He's held several portfolios, including most recently Minister of the Environment. He's being challenged by Liberal Jeff Kosnick, a retired school principal, Kim McArthur-Jackson, running for the NDP. She also ran for the NDP in the last federal election. And finally, we have Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes Brock. This riding definitely considered to be a PC stronghold. Incumbent Laurie Scott has won this riding 5 times since 2003. She is a former Minister of Infrastructure as well as Labour. She captured more than 56% of the vote last time in 2018. She's being challenged by Don McVeigh of the Liberals. He's a retired United Church minister and lawyer. Barbara Doyle, representing the NDP, and Tom Regina, a retired high school music teacher, is on the ballot for the Greens. So Farah, Allen, that's it from Peterborough for now. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Keep an eye on the number at the bottom of your screen there. We are under 20 minutes now until polls close.
Can you feel that anticipation building? We've got to sneak in a quick break right now. We're going to be back with much more election coverage on Global. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Decision Ontario 2022 as we take a look at 3 of the main party headquarters. You see Etobicoke on your left, in the center, that is Vaughan-Woodbridge, the Liberal headquarters, and then in Hamilton, where Andrea Horwath and the NDP are gathering tonight.
You know, I'm looking forward to obviously the result, as we all are, but I'm also looking forward to speeches from those 3 locations tonight, because they'll be really telling in terms of where the leaders go, what happens, how people will work together. So that'll happen a little bit later on tonight. And one riding that's interesting is Don Valley West. Erica Vela is watching that one for us. That, you'll remember, is the riding of former Premier Kathleen Wynne. Erica, it's a big night for that riding because there could be a potential switch up tonight.
That's right. This is a very interesting riding to watch out for because it was a Liberal stronghold since 2003. Like you mentioned, this is the former riding of Liberal Premier Kathleen Wynne, but she is not running in this election, so new candidates are vying for that seat. And one of those candidates is Mark Saunders, who is running for the Ontario PC party, and he might be familiar to many. He was Toronto's Ontario's police chief for 5 years. He stepped down from that position back in 2020, and he's worked with Toronto Police for almost 4 decades. But after retiring, he worked with the province in the last couple of years. He was actually appointed as Ontario Place Special Advisor back in 2021. Now, he is running against Irwin Elman, the NDP candidate who is running again for the NDPs. He was the Ontario Child and Youth Advocate from 2008 to 2019. And Stephanie Bowman is the Liberal candidate who's taking over for Kathleen Wynne. She is running again for the Liberals, and she is a financial service executive. Now, there is a lot to look out for this. Again, I should mention, so last election when we saw Kathleen Wynne win this, she only won by less than 200 votes. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this riding fares. We will be watching the polls and, of course, getting reaction here. I'm going to send it back to you.
Thanks so much, Erica. Interesting that Mark Saunders, and you may ask yourself, wait a second, he's a high-profile person. He's a former police chief. How come maybe you're just at this point finding out that he's even running? And you may, well, why wasn't he out there before?
Good question.
Well, because he wasn't out there before. He, like a number of Conservative candidates, didn't go to all candidate debates. At one point, the Liberals actually sent a guy dressed up in a chicken suit to stand outside his campaign office to say, where you at? Where you at? And it's been kind of part of the campaign for the Conservatives over this whole campaign to sort of, keep those candidates just making sure that there's no foot and mouth disease going around.
Yeah, because that's low risk, right? If you put them out there and they say something wrong, you could end up with a scandal. So of course you don't want them to speak. I just want to point out too, though, that Don Valley West, make sure you watch that. Also, Don Valley East, I mean, a Liberal stronghold, but that also we could see was a tight race last time around, and there's no incumbent there. So
Michael Cotto now in Ottawa.
Federal,
Let's go to Karen Lieberman, who's standing by with the Green Party. Karen.
Alan, there are land acknowledgements being spoken behind me, so I'm trying to be respectful of the land acknowledgements, but I want to tell you that just moments ago there was quite a buzz here in the air, and I'm told it's nothing compared to 2018 when Mike Schreiner won and became the first Green MPP at Queen's Park. And there that night, and here once again, are Debbie and Chuck Daniels. And tell me about Mike, because he just seems to be so loved here in Guelph. Debbie?
Well, he's very outgoing, but he has that wonderful ability to meet people and remember them. It's always, hi Chuck, hi Debbie, on the street, which is a great ability, and he's lots of fun, and he's doing a good job for us.
Yeah, and he's very excited and hopeful about making gains tonight in Queen's Park, specifically 2 ridings. So he's hoping to double or triple his presence, the Green Party's presence at Queen's Park. What are you expecting tonight, Chuck?
What am I expecting? I expect Mike to win, first of all. In terms of doubling or tripling, I think there's a chance for that. But I've only seen it from news reports and things that the campaign people have said over his office. So they're a little bit biased in that direction, but I hope they're right, and I hope they do get at least one partner for Mike. He's a little lonesome right now.
And that's the thing, Chuck and Debbie. It's all about bringing a friend to Queen's Park. He's hoping to double or triple his presence. He's repeated that multiple times. Back to the both of you.
We're actually watching, this is tape that's come in. That is Andrea Horvath. They're speaking with Michael Balagas, who is Balagas, I believe it is. I'm just getting a confirmation from Colin DeMello. Is he campaign director of the NDP? That's Andrea Horvath watching the results about to come in 11 minutes, a little less than 12 minutes when the polls close.
And I was going to say, no one has more weight on their shoulders than Andrea Horwath, but maybe that's not true, because Steven Del Duca also wondering about his future. But, she has been the leader for quite a long time. Yeah, she's been remember, this is her 4th campaign. That's kind of unprecedented, really, when you think of it. You think about how many leaders get more than 2 shots at it. Howard Hampton had, I think, 3 campaigns prior to Andrea Horwath. So Andrea Horwath in her 4th campaign, if she doesn't get the full prize, if she doesn't become premier, I think you have to ask yourself, does she stick around?
does that party look for some kind of renewal?
And like, what is a win for them? They want more seats, but if the Liberals get any ground, they're going to have less seats. So what is a win for them?
Well, you already have 40 seats at dissolution. Right. You're already the official opposition. The next thing is to get over the hump and actually get into the second floor office at Queen's Park.
Right. All right. Let's turn things over to our panel of insiders. Tracy Tong, I'll send it to you.
Well, Farah and Alan, thank you for that. And, we just saw that video of Andrea Horwath waiting for the results to come in. We have Kim Wright, longtime NDP strategist. Kim, what do you think is going through Andrea's mind right now? And is she looking beyond tonight?
So I think you're always looking beyond tonight, but she's also really excited about these campaigns that she has spent so much time developing, these local ridings, these places that, I used to work for Howard Hampton in those years when it wasn't so great to be a New Democrat. What Andrea has done over the course of her leadership is really increase our voter base, increase our donor base exponentially to a place that is just unheard of in politics, and also developing those riding associations so she can create those ground game moments. And if what we're seeing in terms of voter turnout is the way it's seeming to go, those ground game are going to be quite important. So what does she do? How does she continue to grow that? That becomes a question probably for tomorrow. What tonight we're looking for is, who are those new MPPs? Where have we made those gains? Last election, she was first or second in 100 of the 124 ridings. That doesn't happen overnight. And that kind of leadership where, frankly, as I said, when I worked for Howie, we lost official party status twice. Then he came back, and then Andrea took over. She has developed this party into a massive force, not just a movement, but a massive force. And that's going to stay with her, regardless of what happens tonight. That's the legacy of where we're at now.
Yeah.
And we are not going to stop.
And we have watched her in 4 campaigns, but it seemed like in this one, she had a little less energy than she normally does.
I think it's always hard to get back into, we've all seen it, getting off of Zooms and back out, getting your sea legs under you a bit. But what I saw, especially in the last week, her campaign bus, they had, they'd stop at community after community. There'd be dance parties breaking out. There was all sorts of fun. So to me, that shows a lot of energy. And, I saw some people who are longtime New Democrats who are excited. Others who are really new to the New Democrats. They're all really excited for what the future holds, and I'm really excited for them.
Yeah, let's continue on this campaign strategy talk here. Melissa, I want to ask you about Doug Ford and his strategy and really staying absent. And we saw that in some of the candidates as well, right? Farah and Alan were just talking about Mark Saunders in Don Valley West, the candidate there for the Ontario PC party, being absent for a lot of the campaigning and not having his face out there as much as some of the other candidates may want. Doug Ford, noticeably absent from some kind of public events, media availabilities, kept those very limited. What was the strategy behind there? Was it a kind of keep your foot out of the mouth?
Yeah, look,
situation?
I think this was a very disciplined performance from the premier. As far as all of the numbers throughout the entire campaign, that flat line of polling, this was a race for second place, and Doug Ford wasn't in it. So why get into it? That's the strategy explanation. I think with Mr. Saunders, he actually did do a debate. So I think there's a lot of people that get hassled for not doing this, but in this case, I think it's in there from a strategy perspective. It's in their interest not to do that. And during all of this, there has been quite a realignment of the voters. They have tapped into vote bases they've never had before. So I'm not sure that there was a benefit in doing it for Mr. Ford.
So it was a watch from the sidelines and enjoy the show.
Well, I certainly watched from the sidelines on this one, and that was new for me. But I think the premier was out in ridings. The only difference between this campaign and I think last campaign is you didn't see that rally every single night, and that's just for the times.
All right, Sarjeet, how much did the NDP's recent successes eat away at the Liberals' potential to grow?
I don't think it ate away at the Liberals' potential to grow, but I think it just does show a difference between, the the strides that, say, the federal NDP has been able to make as opposition, but still being able to show that they are effective at pushing the government to deliver certain things. And I don't think the NDP at the provincial level as opposition were able to do that, despite their seat count, despite them, finally having that opportunity to be able to make a dent in the Ford government. And in terms of campaigning styles, I would just say there's a big difference between winning and doing the right thing. And strategy-wise, it might be very wise to just, stay out of sight, out of mind, but it's not the right thing to do. There's winners and there's leaders. If you're a leader, the election is the time you go to people's doors, you knock, you listen to them. Debates is how people get engaged. We're talking about low voter turnout. People are not engaged if they don't have conversations at that local level that they can go to and see what people are offering. So I think it's it's very unfortunate that people think it's okay to just do what you can get away with versus what is right, which is making yourself available, having your schedule available to media and all your campaign events there for the public for scrutiny.
I'm going to jump in here. Hold on, wait a minute. Your leader decided to put out a quote media availability and not take questions. I'm not exactly sure that's really
part that having secret campaign events.
Hold on, you're also your campaigns not only didn't vet candidates, let people go onto your ballots that said very homophobic
the problem with the NDP. They were focused on the wrong party.
Entirely decided to, in the case of your Chatham-Kent-Leamington candidate, put in fraudulent papers to Elections Ontario.
Exactly
and
the problem. Focusing on the wrong
party. Somehow Steven Del Duca believed that this was Andrea Horwath being sexist, not the fact that you guys were defrauding Elections
we were actually
Ontario.
looking at a live shot of Doug Ford watching the election results, waiting for them anyway, with his family there. We see his daughters, his wife. Melissa,
you can
just
say
take us through what he's thinking right now.
I think this is,
this is him watching on the sidelines.
No, this is not him watching on the sidelines. I think you can say a lot of things about Doug Ford. Him not talking to people is not one of them. I think
they didn't even answer letters from advocacy
I think everybody
groups.
In this province has his cell phone number, and I'm not sure that there
I called him. He never called me back.
Oh, well. It must be you then.
There are local advocacy groups that send the letters. Every
right.
election, there are people who send letters, advocacy groups. They send them to all three parties. Guess which party didn't even respond to a simple letter? From groups like truckers, people who had simple questions that they couldn't even bother to respond. It's arrogant and it's undemocratic.
All right, Doug Ford there looking pretty happy with his entire family. Getting heated in here. We'll send things back to you for now, Farah and Alan.
All right. Wow. Yeah, what a discussion that was. You're looking again at Doug Ford with his wife, Carla, watching the results or watching us, or who knows what they're watching. They're probably watching some sort of election broadcast. And beside them, you see his daughters. His daughter, one is Kyla. He also has a daughter named Krista, Kyla, and Cara. And I'm sure they're all there watching.
Let's go to David Aiken now, who's awaiting the results. We're just 3 minutes away from polls closing. David.
Yes, and stop me if it's 3 minutes. But let me quickly show you Highway 413. That was a big issue in this campaign, right? Doug Ford and the PCs want to build Highway 413. Everybody else would kill the idea. So let's take a look at the map. I've done some drawing while I was waiting to be here. I drew some of the major 400 highways in green. Highway 401 starting in the west. There it goes through Toronto and on its way to Ottawa. Then we've got the split 407 up and on its way to Peterborough. Highway 400. Where does 413 go and what ridings are affected? Watch my magic finger. I'm going to paint it in yellow. I hope. I haven't tried this yet. Here we go. It starts right about here. That's Stephen Lecce's riding of King Vaughan, then into Sylvia Jones' riding of Dufferin-Caledon. A lot of work there. Then it comes down into Brampton West. That's held by the PCs. And a little bit of, there we go, Wellington Halton Hills. There's your Highway 413. I'm going to go 4, 1, 3. Whoop, 4, 1, 3. That's Highway 413. So in any event, as we keep a look at Doug Ford wants to build that Highway 413, we may have a referendum. We have some NDP ridings in Brampton that would border 413, mostly PCs. Guys, we got a minute to go, couple of minutes. I'm excited. I'm going to get ready to see first results. Back to you.
All right, thanks. And, if you were wondering about David's drawing skills, we're staying on the live shot here of the Ford family. As they await the results, as again, that is Doug Ford, his wife Carla, his daughters Krista, Kayla, Cara, and Kyla are with them, as well as we are waiting now just a minute and a half until polls officially close, and then pretty quickly we are expecting we are going to see some results, and we'll see those pop up in real time at the bottom of your screen on our leading and elected boards there.
How do you think, Alan, has he changed since 4 years ago, since we were looking at this kind of visual, similar visual, sitting at this desk 4 years ago? How do you think he's evolved?
I think that's a great question. There's been a lot of ink spilled over that. Doug Ford comes into the Premier's office as a disruptor, as someone who's kind of come in and I'm going to shake things up and change things. Obviously, 4 years later, he can't run as a disruptor when he's already been in power for 4 years. But now he's not an ideologue. I think this is an important thing to understand about Doug Ford. Unlike perhaps Jason Kenney, who you might think is more, a partisan in terms of, ideology and conservative ideology.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Doug Ford has ever been that. And I think the latter half of his tenure has been marked by increased professionalism as well, especially within the Premier's office. He's got a new chief of staff, not that new now, he's been there for a couple of years, but I think that has sort of changed things for Doug Ford.
Yeah, as we have 19 seconds left, I'll try to say this quickly. I think one thing I've noticed is his speaking. I mean, he's given those speeches every day during COVID. He was out there, those were like political ads in a way, because he was always around. So I think that's changed the way he speaks. So there we go. 5 seconds to go until polls have officially closed.
Stay with us. It is 9 o'clock. Polls have officially closed across the province of Ontario, and results will be coming in at any moment.
That's right. Before the results start pouring in, we just want to remind you what you're seeing here on your screen. So first of all, if you are watching us online, you can click on your riding for updated results anytime. And for those of you who are watching us on television or on the app, you can see all the information here.
This is where we're going to show you the live results as they're reported by Elections Ontario. No filter, just right to you on the screen. On the bottom of the screen, you see the overall standings, leading or elected. Now, keep this number in mind, 63. 63 is your magic ticket, because if you get 63 or above in the province of Ontario, that is majority government territory. Along the side, you see the results for each of the 124 ridings in the province. Just stay tuned, watch there, you'll see your riding come up pretty soon.
All right, let's get right to it. We want to go back to our party headquarters. As we mentioned, Matthew Bingley is with the incumbent Progressive Conservatives, Shlima Maharaj is following the NDP, and Sean O'Shea is in Vaughan with the Liberals. Matthew, I want to start with you. Polls have just closed. We saw Doug Ford, who was watching with his family, and then he's going to eventually be where you are. What's the mood like in the room so far?
Well, some supporters actually coming in here now. For a while it was quite quiet. Now we're starting to see the room fill up a little bit. There's only about 120 seats for people to actually come and cheer on. Obviously they are expecting to have cheers, but as we see this sort of holding pattern as we're really waiting for these results to start pouring in now. Obviously, we heard a little bit earlier about some of those polling stations, some of the issues there, and some of the extensions. I was talking with one party insider who told me that they do not expect to have many areas that are going to be affected by that, but we will be checking in on that a little bit later. I'll send it back to you for now.
All right, thank you so much for that, and thanks for getting back to us, because we have our first results in. Look. 2 NDP seats now. I just want to be so clear, crystal clear on this. These are leading or elected. So just because you see these numbers the way they are now, they might change, they might shift. Don't be alarmed. That's just how things work.
Let's go to David Aiken with a look at some of these very, very early results, David.
They're early, and what time? Like, that's Elections Ontario, 9:03 or something. Anyways, first result was in Sudbury. That is a riding we expect the NDP to hold, and right now, with one poll reporting, Jamie West, the incumbent and the New Democrat in Sudbury, has 8 votes, folks, and that's a 2-vote lead over the Liberal David Farrow. So Sudbury, the New Democrats are up. We expect, and the NDP expects, to hold Sudbury. Here's somewhere where this would be a surprise if the New Democrats won, and that's in York Region, in the 905. Richmond Hill is the only other place we have results right now, and look at that. 1 vote for Raymond Bouchan. Daisy Way is the Progressive Conservative incumbent. No votes for everybody else. 1 poll in. But as we promised, we'd get the first results to you right away, even if it was just 1 vote in Richmond Hill. So that's where we have right now, just 2 boards reporting. As soon as we get more, we'll get them up on the screen right away.
All right, thank you.
All right, let's shift our focus now to the NDP headquarters, where Shalima Maharaj is spending the evening along with the NDP. What's the mood there as these results just start to trickle in?
Well, good evening. We are starting to see some people make their way into the convention center. Right now, I'm actually joined by Party Press Secretary Sam Payne. Thanks so much for being with us, Sam. I have to ask, I mean, obviously, the party captured a lot of momentum during the last election, but now we're hearing a lot about the battle for second place, a possible Liberal resurgence. Do you feel like you've done enough at this state in order to be able to overcome that?
Well, we're really proud of the campaign we've run. We've gone to every corner of the province, bringing a positive message, talking about dental care, mental health care. We've reached a lot of people. We've had a really motivated team. We've had volunteers going from door to door. People are responding. We're proud of the message we're putting out there, and absolutely glad that we were able to share this message with the people of Ontario.
40 seats in the last election. How confident are you that you're going to be able to maintain that?
I mean, the structure of the party has gotten much more robust and more professional. The party has got a very bright future. We're very happy about the message we're putting out across the province. We've got talking about things that matter to people, like dental care, like mental health. We're talking about housing. We're talking about all kinds of supports, and we're proud of it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us. So right now we're going to send things back to you in studio, but of course we'll have more updates coming up here live at headquarters in Hamilton.
All right, thank you for that, Shalima. And just a reminder, at the corner of your screen, you are seeing Doug Ford and his family watching election results, very early results. We now have 3 for the NDP, 2 for the Conservative Party. But again, these are leading and elected, and we'll see where those are. None for the Liberals. Let's go right to Sean O'Shea. He's in Vaughan with where Steven Del Duca will be at some point this evening. How are things going there?
Well, Steven Del Duca is upstairs in a room right now watching this with members of his family. Unlike Doug Ford, whose images you showed a little while ago, the Liberal Party is not allowing our pool camera to go in and show those images. A very different atmosphere. Will this party headquarters be a party tonight? Well, I guess we're going to find out. Dan Moulton, you're the communications guy for the Liberals. Is it going to be a party tonight?
Look, I think if we look at where we were 4 years ago, we've made a heck of a lot of progress, and I think that tonight we will be in a position to form a new party in the Ontario legislature.
I asked you off camera what would be success tonight. You told me party status. Well, isn't that a pretty low bar?
I think 4 years ago, if you look at where we were, it's exactly where we need to be tonight. And over the last 4 years, we've done a lot of rebuilding. If you look at where we were then, where we were left, not enough seats to form a party, $10 million in debt. We've done a lot of rebuilding these last 4 years, and we're excited about the results.
Final quick question. Steven Del Duca lost the last time in his own seat. Is he going to be able to win this seat tonight?
We're feeling really confident here in Vaughan-Woodbridge today.
Hey, Moulton, thanks very much. So there you go. Here at Liberal headquarters, they've got the buttons out. A few people showing up. The drinks are opening up. People now starting to come in. But this is going to be a really interesting place to watch tonight, because are the Liberals going to be able to bounce back? Will they get official party status? Could they become the official opposition? Will Steven Del Duca win his seat? Lots of questions that need to be answered. We're going to be here to answer all of them for you. Back to you.
Alan, did you hear though? Thank you so much, Sean. And Sean asked that question. Is it going to be a party tonight? And there was, very much a spin of that answer.
Well, what do you mean by party?
How do you define party?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's a good question.
I think it's pretty clear there's going to be a party at where Matthew Bingley is. Maybe there's just a party with wherever Matthew Bingley is at all times. I don't know that, but Matt's at the PC headquarters tonight. Matt.
That's right, and I'm joined here now with Conservative strategist Jason Leader. Jason, a lot has been made about the change in tone of this campaign, a lot more measured, Doug Ford staying on message. How much, I guess the question is, how much of a strategy was it to make sure that he didn't veer off of that?
Yeah, very deliberate strategy. I think there was 2 sort of points to that. One, sort of staying people out of people's faces. People have seen a lot of this guy over the last couple of years. And, sometimes it's best to just pull back and say, you know what? I've done a decent job. You guys sort of judge me and have at it. And then second, staying on that really simple message, which is, the economy is a little bit in turmoil. You're looking around, you're seeing Ukraine, you're seeing inflation, interest rate rises, all that kind of stuff. Somebody's going to work on that stuff. Somebody's got that. And he's got the sort of the sort of business background to let that out. But I think the real key here, as I said earlier, was staying out of people's faces. It was the quietest election campaign in Ontario that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I think that was a very deliberate strategy by the Ford team to sort of, again, again, just let people sort of decide. He did a pretty good job. Let's give him another shot.
No, just on that, staying out of the public eye, there were a lot of criticisms leveled at this campaign for maybe not engaging enough with the electorate. Is there too little that you can actually engage with voters in the campaign?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I actually disagree generally with that, because I think Ford, number one, everybody knows what Doug Ford stands for. The guy stood in front of, a microphone for the better part of 2 years, answering more questions than anybody's ever answered, any Ontario Premier's ever answered over the course of a 2-year span. I think people knew what they were getting with Mr. Ford, and I don't think he's him and Mr. Trudeau are legitimate political superstars. Everyone knows who they are. Everyone knows what they stand for. Everyone has seen them sort of answer all these questions. So I think really, truthfully, a little bit less in your face is a really good thing to do, and it was the right strategy for this campaign.
Right, and we're going to see Doug Ford again at a microphone a little bit later. I'll send it back to you for now.
Thanks very much, Matt. I appreciate that as we continue to look at live video of Doug Ford and his family taking into the results. Already PCs leading or elected with 16, NDP 4, Liberals 2, Green 1.
Let's find out where. Here's David Aiken with more on the early results. What are you seeing, David?
That's right. We'll take a look at the map. We've got a lot of blue on the map. In Eastern Ontario, the PCs tend to dominate. They are leading right now in the bellwether riding. That's Peterborough right there. Dave Smith has a 32-vote lead with 1 poll reporting. But again, that's the bellwether riding of Peterborough. We did have, as we look through the province, we see a leaders riding right now. That's Guelph. Mike Schreiner is leading in Guelph. 2 polls reporting, and Schreiner's already out to a 500-vote lead. That's very good after 2 polls. Mike Schreiner leading. For the NDP, they'll be very heartened to hear in Ottawa Centre they appear to be holding Joel Harden. That's going to be a two-way fight between the NDP and the Liberals all night. New Democrat Joel Harding up by 500 on the Liberal Katie Gibbs. But again, take a look at this map right now. Where the Conservatives have seats, they're by and large holding seats. And in fact, if we take a look into Toronto now, we've zoomed in a little bit, we do see in Scarborough Agincourt, that's Aris Babikian. He is holding on. He is the incumbent, 286-vote lead, 3 polls in. Other ridings that we're keeping an eye on in the Toronto region, Scarborough Rouge Park, PC's also holding. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you, David. Thanks for coming back to us, because we've got some breaking news coming in.
Wow, that was fast. Global News projecting that the Progressive Conservatives will form a majority government. They have, or are expected to, secure at least 63 seats in the legislature.
10 minutes after the polls closed is when this call is being made. Let's go right to Matthew Bingley at PC Headquarters. Matt. Oh, we don't have him yet. We're looking at a live shot there, and it's not full yet. So I'm sure the celebration will happen. Sometimes when these calls take a while, it's, you see the celebration, but even it's so early, there aren't so many people here. David, can we bring you back in? Because I just want to understand how we got here so fast.
Well, we got here so fast because, again, Conservatives are winning where they have strength. They have strength right across the province. They have the most efficient vote. But let's take a look at some examples of some pickups we see now. It's still early. I want to stress that. By the popular vote, it's clear the Conservatives will win that majority. But right now, Vaughan-Woodbridge is in the PC column. Vaughan-Woodbridge, that's the riding of Liberal leader Steven Del Duca. He right now is 800 votes behind the Conservative incumbent Michael Tobolo. 800 votes behind, 3 polls reporting. That is a big lead after 3 polls for Michael Tobolo over Steven Del Duca. Then let's go south. Here's a riding where Conservatives generally have no business being. That is the riding of Humber River Black Creek. Typically, it's the New Democrats are the incumbent. It's often Liberal, and yet Paul Nguyen is winning with 112 votes right now. Conservatives up 112 with 4 polls in Humber River Black Creek. That's Toronto. Even a little further south, York Southwestern, another riding where Conservatives historically do not do well. Some guy named Ford is running here, Michael Ford. He is the nephew of the Premier Doug Ford. He's got a 42-vote lead. That's pretty slim. 2 polls reporting. 42-point lead for Michael Ford, the PC, over New Democrat incumbent Faisal Hassan. So that's what's going on right now. I mentioned for the Liberals, ridings they have to have. The first riding I signaled earlier tonight that they have to have, that would be Eglinton Lawrence. And sure enough, Arlena Hebert, the Liberal, is right now leading by 8 votes over Robin Martin, the Progressive Conservative incumbent. 2 polls reporting, but that would be something the Liberals were talking about, a recovery. For the Liberals, right now it's a battle for second place. Doug Ford is going to lead another majority government. Why? He won ridings already held, and he's picking up in places. Conservatives, well, he's leading in places. Conservatives have never, ever had any luck.
All right, thanks, David. And as you see those numbers, there are 38 for the Progressive Conservatives leading or elected, 13 NDP, Liberal 7, Greens 1. And you ask yourself, how can we, make this call so early? Well, it's the popular vote, as David mentioned. Let's take a look at what the popular vote stands right now. And this compares also to 2018. Right now, you have the Progressive Conservatives actually slightly bettering their 2018 results. And remember that in 2018, they won 76 seats. The Liberals have bounced back with a little bit more than they were in 2018, 24.2% currently. Look at that, the NDP number coming back down from where they were in 2018. And the Greens up. That's good news for the Greens, regardless how it ends at the end of the night, at 6.7% of popular vote at this point in the evening.
But of course, the Greens do want that other seat at Queen's Park. Let's go again to Matthew Bingley. He is at PC headquarters. What was the moment like there, Matt?
Well, you could hear it in the background. I was in the middle of talking with Jason Leader. A huge cheer went up from the crowd, a lot of chanting, a lot of very, very happy voices, and really no surprise. Earlier on in the evening, talking to some of the campaign insiders, they were saying that they had big smiles on their faces, but they didn't want to get overconfident at that moment. But just right now, the energy level in this room has noticeably picked up. And you can hear people just milling about, a lot more happy faces than as you really would expect. I'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you for that. Now let's go to Shalima Maharaj. She's over at the NDP. And I mean, as Alan pointed out in that popular vote, they are down even in the popular vote. So we'll see what the seat count is. But I believe we should have Shalima, as you are looking also at the corner of your screen. And we are still looking at Doug Ford and his wife and his family watching results. Go ahead, Shalima.
Hi there, guys. You know what? In the room right now, I can tell you there's definitely a lot more people in and around the convention center just waiting for the arrival of Andrea Horvath. There really hasn't been much of an overall mood shift. You haven't heard more people sort of talking quite yet. I think obviously the big battle for second place has been where all eyes have been, primarily throughout this race and throughout the evening. You know, we've been talking to people about what their expectations are going in here, and a lot of the questions, again, continue to fall on whether or not there is going to be a future with the leader of the party, with it, whether or not Andrea Horvath is going to remain with this political party going forward. Obviously, we did see them gain quite a bit of momentum during that 2018 election. Clearly, they were up against the Liberals in a battle for that second place. And so right now, you know, I'm going to step out of the way. I'm not sure if you can see here, but you know, we do have a few more people coming in. We're still awaiting her arrival, but certainly once we do get that and once we do continue to see those results trickle in, we'll bring you all of the latest from campaign headquarters here in Hamilton. But for now, I'll send it back to you in studio.
Thank you, Shalima. Let's check in on Vaughan-Woodbridge and the results as they're coming in from there. And this is not good news for Steven Del Duca or Liberal hopes for a comeback. Our results at this point, with 4 out of 38 polls reporting, is that Michael Tobolo is more than doubling at this point. The vote count for Steven Del Duca is still early, but that is a sizable lead in Vaughan-Woodbridge for the PC incumbent.
Oh, the stakes are really high in this riding for him. Let's go right to Sean O'Shea. He's now at the Liberal Party headquarters. Sean.
Well, Farah, I said a few minutes ago, would it be a party here at party headquarters? And it's certainly not a party right now, not with information like that. pretty down mood here right now because it does not look good for the Liberals or for Steven Del Duca. And I want to speak to one of Steven Del Duca's neighbors in the neighborhood who worked for him, Emily Grosso. What do you think about the fact that Mr. Del Duca is behind and that we've declared that the Conservatives will win a majority government?
Well, it's not over yet, till it's over, as they say. And Stephen has worked so hard, he deserves this seat in Woodbridge. We'd like him to be the leader here, at least. He's lived in this neighborhood all his life, and he's a wonderful man and hardworking. I know the family. I see them walking their dog, taking his children to school. So we always talk, hello, how are you? And, you know, as a neighbor.
So you're disappointed tonight?
Yes, I will be. As soon as we get the full report, I will be. But we've been Liberals. I have. I'll speak for myself, not my family. My parents were immigrants, and from the Diefenbaker days, immigrants were not looked upon as favorable people by the PC government. My father was a laborer. We were 6 children, and he lost his job. Then Pearson came in, and he had a job, and my father said, I will be a Liberal till the day I die. He's got every book on Pearson, and I took them all.
Emily, thanks very much. Emily, very much a big Liberal, disappointed with the results, and of course we're waiting for more results here in this riding, but as Alan, you said a few moments ago, not looking good for Steven Del Duca in this riding, in his own riding. He lost last time, and things are not looking good for him tonight. We'll send it back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Sean.
We want to take a look at some Liberal and Conservative pickups right now. Let's start in Barrie, Springwater, Oro, Medonte. This is going to be an interesting one. Doug Downey is here. He is against Jeff Lehman. He is a former Barrie mayor and three-term mayor, popular mayor. We'll see what happens there. We're also looking at Eglinton Lawrence over here, and we can see it's pretty close there. Now, only 8 polls are reporting, but you see the Liberal is ahead.
In Toronto, St. Paul's, what do we have here? The Progressive Conservative out in front of the Liberal. Pardon me, this is Brampton Centre, apologies, with the Progressive Conservative leading here. This is where the Liberals were hoping to come back, maybe, and Sarah Singh there is the incumbent, and she's in third. At York South-Weston, Michael Ford, might another Ford be heading to Queen's Park? Right now in York South-Weston, Michael Ford is in the lead.
All right, let's bring in our panel because I'm so curious. Oh, actually, hold on. We have one more.
There it is, Toronto St. Paul's with the NDP incumbent Jill Andrew. At this point, out in front of Nathan Saul. This is so important for the Liberals. David Aiken has been talking about this. This is a Liberal stronghold if ever there was one. They lost it in 2018. They need to get it back with Nathan Stahl.
And of course, the NDP hoping to hold on to that. Let's bring in Tracy and our panel tonight. You could tell how excited I was to speak to you, Tracy, because I'm sure they have a lot to say about this.
Farah, our panel has been waiting at the edge of this desk to just weigh in on everything. We knew that it was all going to happen so quickly once the polls closed, and it did. Global News calling a PC majority government. 11 minutes. It took 11 minutes. Melissa, I don't think you were surprised because you actually placed a bet and won some money tonight.
These are the things we bet on. So I thought that they would come in between 9:11 and 9:13, but that felt pretty fast. And first of all, congratulations to the Premier. I think the people of Ontario.
And just not to interrupt you here, but we've got a live picture right now, live video of Mike Schreiner, who is watching the results come in with his family. He's expected to win his riding. Again, he made history in the last election to be the first MPP for the Green Party in the legislature. So back to whether anyone was surprised. I know, Melissa, you weren't, and you were just in the middle of your sentence there.
Yeah, well, I would say, I'll repeat that. Congratulations to the Premier. I think Ontarians get, 4 more years of an agenda that is ambitious. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to build. And I think the Premier has certainly made his mark, and I think we'll see 4 more years of stability.
Sarjeet, Kim, you want to weigh in on whether this was a surprise to you?
Look, congratulations to the Premier and his team. Whether I like the results at the end of an evening on an election night is irrelevant. Democracy is never wrong. Voters are never wrong. What I will say to those who are watching and going, one, how the heck did this all happen, given what we've seen, and what does this mean for us going forward? The reality is this: if you want to have your voice heard, you can have your voice heard. You can talk to your MPPs. You can talk with develop coalitions. You can get governments to listen and move on items that matter to you. So do not be disheartened at the end of the day. But those who show up and vote are the ones who, that's how this works. This is how democracy works. But to the Premier, to his team, to everyone who's getting elected tonight, congratulations. To everyone who has run, it is a heck of a thing. And congratulations to you. It doesn't feel like it should be congratulatory, if you're not on the happy side of election night. But what you did for democracy is wonderful. So thank you.
Absolutely. And we are watching all of democracy's work unfold tonight. Thank you so much for that. We got to send it back to the desk for now, but we'll return in just a little bit. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Tracy.
Let's take a look at the numbers there. 64 is the current leading and elected. The Progressive Conservatives cruising into majority territory now with 64, the NDP 23, Liberals 9, the Green Party at 1.
That's right. And we can now confirm to you that Mike Schreiner has won his riding, the riding of Guelph that he got 4 years ago. It was a Liberal stronghold as well there. And then Mike Schreiner took it 4 years ago and once again has taken it today, becoming the first Green MPP. He's hoping to have the second Green MPP, or maybe even the third tonight at Queen's Park.
Let's go to Guelph, where Karen Lieberman is standing by with the Green Party. Karen.
Alan, certainly a celebratory mood here. As you just reported, Mike Schreiner did take his seat once again in Guelph by a comfortable lead. He won it 4 years ago for the first time, making history as the first elected Green MPP at the legislature. The big question at this point is, will he be bringing a couple of buddies with him to the legislature? The whole goal of this party is really to make gains at Queen's Park. But I'll tell you, it didn't matter a couple of minutes ago when the crowd behind me, there are about 200 of them, by the way, he is really, really well liked here in Guelph. When the crowd learned that Mike Schreiner took his seat in Guelph, they of course were cheering. They're getting ready for him to enter into this banquet hall at the Delta Hotel in Guelph. He should be here around 9:40. He'll make his way to the stage and he'll talk about getting his seat again, about making gains. The big question will be the other two ridings that we're watching tonight where the Greens were hoping to win, and those are Parry Sound Muskoka and University Rosedale. Those, unfortunately, results are rolling in a little bit slower. There were delays there, so that'll be a big question mark. University Rosedale is a former environmental commissioner, Diane Sachs. Parry Sound Muskoka, here we go. He's up on the screen, and it shows the results for Mike Schreiner. And as you can hear, his supporters are really happy with the results. But again, Parry Sound Muskoka, we'll find out what the results are coming in a little bit later. Back to you.
All right, thank you for that, Karen. And just a reminder, Parry Sound Muskoka, that is that area houses Doug Ford's cottage. So we will see, yes, we will see what happens in that area. But we want to confirm to you right now that Transportation Minister Carolyn Mulroney has won her riding. She got it 4 years ago and she's gotten it again. It's been PC since it was created in 2007.
To another minister within the Ford government, Huron Bruce. Lisa Thompson was Minister of Education for a while, was at dissolution. Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, has been re-elected in Huron. Bruce. Let's go to David. Shall we go to David Aiken?
Yeah,
David Aiken's got all kinds of colors, but what's that gray we're looking at?
What is that gray? What is that gray, you say? Let me tell you. We're in the riding of Haldimand, Norfolk. That is the one other that we're talking about. And there's an interesting backstory on this in Haldimand, Norfolk, way down in the southwest. The woman leading here is Bobby Ann Brady, independent. We didn't get a picture of Bobby Ann, but who is she? I'll tell you. The longtime MPP for this riding was Toby Barrett. Toby Barrett, Progressive Conservative. Now, Toby Barrett wanted to retire, and he said to the party, I'd like my executive assistant, Bobby Ann Brady, to be the candidate to replace me. And the party said, nah, we'd rather have this guy, Ken Hewitt. Toby Barrett was a bit miffed about that, and Toby Barrett has thrown his entire machine, if you will, behind his former executive assistant, Bobby Ann Brady. So the vote on the right, this is a very conservative riding. It is going to vote for a conservative candidate. Even though she's an independent, she called herself conservative. Here's what happened here. Bobby Ann Brady, That's Toby Barrett's poll, getting her up there. She's got an 880 vote lead with 12 polls reporting. PC Ken Hewitt is in second. Now, there's your split of the PC vote in favor of Bobby Ann Brady. But there's more here. We got the Ontario Party. Yes, we'll be talking about these new splinter parties. He's got Sheldon Simpson is in fourth with 5% of the vote, probably peeling off something from the Progressive Conservatives. But wait, there's more. Yes, there is. I'm going to flip up to the next board. There's the Liberal candidate in sixth. Liberals are a non-starter here. But we have the New Blue Party, Nate Hawkins. Another one of these sort of splinter candidates on the right side. He's got 5% of the vote. So you've got New Blue taking 5%. You've got Ontario Party taking 5%. The PC has got 29%. And Bobby Ann Brady, endorsed by a very popular former MPP who's basically given the finger to the party, she's ahead in Haldeman, Norfolk. That's the backstory. Pretty good, eh? Pretty exciting little race. Now, I want to look at some New Democrats, because as we look below, we have the right now, we call the chicklets below. The Progressive Conservatives are leading or elected in 70, NDP leading or elected in 26. The NDP, there's some good news in there. They won 40 in 2018. I don't think they're going to get there tonight, but right now, if we go way up to the north of the province, Thunder Bay Superior North, another longtime MPP who was quite respected on all sides, Michael Gravel. He was a Liberal. He's had to retire essentially for health reasons. And right now, it looks like the NDP are poised to steal that seat in Thunder Bay Superior North. Lise Vaugeois, the New Democrat, has a 670 vote lead, 22 polls reporting. So that's good news for the New Democrats there. And then one I want to show you in Ottawa, West Nepean, that's up in my neck of the woods in the national capital. In 2018, the Conservatives won by 175 votes over the PCs. Well, guess what? It's a rematch. Chandra Pasma has a 466 vote lead right now over the Conservative that beat her last time, Jeremy Roberts. It's 37% to 32%, 13 polls reporting. So Ottawa, West Nepean could be another New Democrat in the National Capital Region. Still a lot to go, but right now Chandra Pasma leading over Jeremy Roberts. There you go.
All right. Thank you for that, David.
Take a look at the numbers there as the Progressive Conservatives have now topped 70 at 71 Progressive Conservatives leading or elected, 26 for the NDP, 9 for the Liberals, 1 for the Green Party. Let's talk about the leaders in their ridings right now. Doug Ford has been re-elected in Etobicoke North. The king of Etobicoke, as David Aiken likes to call him, is re-elected, heading back to Queen's Park.
And we also have Andrea Horwath. Let's see how she's doing. Okay, and she has been elected, there you go, in her riding of Hamilton Centre. Now, those two didn't come as a surprise, and neither did this one, perhaps. Mike Schreiner elected in the riding of Guelph, as we told you.
All right, let's go to Vaughan-Woodbridge, and this has got to be a bit of just a knee knocker for the Liberals tonight, because look at that. Michael Tobolo is way out front. We're not far enough yet that we can declare him elected. 9 out of 38 polls, but at 57% of the vote, it does not look good for Steven Del Duca going back to Queen's Park.
And just a little bit of a backstory here on this riding, just to remind you, Del Duca held this seat for 6 years. And then, after that happened, Michael Tobolo took it, and this riding was a risk, right? It was a risk for Del Duca. Even though he has deep roots here, he lost it just 4 years ago. So we'll see what happens tonight, and it's going to be hard to tell if he stays on as leader, Alan, if he loses the seat. What's going to happen?
There's going to be a lot of questions about that. Let's go to Daryl Bricker from Ipsos, who's in our newsroom. Daryl, what are you seeing tonight?
Well, I think the question about who was going to win second place is now clearly over. There was a bit of confusion in some of the polling about who was in second place, but quite clearly tonight it's the NDP. They're going to form the official opposition again after tonight. And now the only really big questions that are still on the table are, does Steven Del Duca win his seat, and does the Liberal Party regain official party status? And it looks like a stretch at the moment.
Thanks, Daryl.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to Kingston now. Global Kingston. Bill Hutchins is standing by with a look at that region. Over to you, Bill.
All right, thanks, Farah. Yeah, Kingston and the Islands riding, as we predicted earlier, shaping up to be a very close race between the Liberals and the NDP. The NDP hold this riding currently since 2018. Liberals trying to get it back. This has been a traditional Liberal stronghold. And if we look at the boards, if we have them there, we can show you that, Liberal candidate Ted Hsu is up by 40%. He started to pull ahead now, ahead of Mary Rita Holland, who was hoping to hang on to this riding for the NDP. She's actually in a neck-and-neck race with the PC candidate, former Kingston Mayor Gary Bennett. So they seem to be fighting it out for second place in this riding. But it looks like this riding is going to turn red. Over in Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston, we're getting some results there. And the PC candidate, John Jordan, is already opening up a big lead over the other candidates. He's a first-time candidate here. This is former Randy Hillier country. He's not running this time. John Jordan has stepped in, and he has taken a commanding lead in Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston. Over in Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes, we have Ford Cabinet Minister Steve Clark. No surprises here. He's also pulling ahead. He's going, he's had this riding since 2010, and it looks like he is going back to Queen's Park for another term if these results hold up. And in the big riding of Hastings, Lennox, and Addington, a riding that's bigger than Prince Edward Island, new candidate Rick Brzee is also well ahead for the PC party, 51% of the vote. That's more than all the other candidates and parties combined. And Bay of Quinte, Todd Smith looks like he's cruising to his fourth term. Yes, he's driving the big blue Ford machine on cruise control in Bay of Quinte. So 4 of these ridings around Kingston and the Islands are reasons why Doug Ford is heading to his second majority government. The only question, will Kingston and the Islands be a little red riding in a sea of blue? We'll send it back to you.
Thanks so much, Bill.
You know, the thing that I can't get over, Alan, that I'm still kind of trying to process is how quickly this call came. 11 minutes. And Tracy's going to join us now. Tracy, you have your insiders there. I'm curious if you or your insiders ever remember a quicker call than 11 minutes, and not just a call about a government, a call about a majority.
Well, let's ask them right now. Melissa, I know you weren't surprised by the 11-minute call, but do you recall a quicker call?
So it was 9:17 last time in 2018, and I remember making the walk from a room in the convention center to the convention center, and it was it needed to be a brisk walk, but this was fast. And like Daryl said, I think there's a few questions left on whether the Liberals can make that official party status, whether whether Steven Del Duca wins his seat, because I think that'll be very telling for the rest of the evening.
Yeah, and that absolutely is one riding that we are watching closely, as are many people, because a lot is weighing on that. What happens in Vaughan-Woodbridge, where Steven Del Duca is running, and he is lagging behind right now, even though the votes are still being counted. If we have that board, if we can just pull it up. But I wanted to ask you, Sarbjeet, what do you think is on Steven Del Duca's mind right now, and what does this mean for his political future? What exactly is weighing on this riding?
Yeah, I mean, I think regardless of the outcome, the Liberal Party and all of the candidates who ran under Steven Del Duca owe him a huge debt of gratitude. It's not easy to come in when he came in, you know, a party that was basically rebuilding from ground zero, giving it your all, working very hard, fearlessly, and supporting all these candidates and doing his best. So huge debt of gratitude to Steven. And all 3 parties, I think, you know, as happens after elections, they stop and they take stock of what they want to do to continue building and making further gains. I think the popular vote shows us that the middle class is gravitating back towards the Liberals, and even the Conservatives, they owe some of their gains to moving more towards the center. I mean, Doug Ford doesn't even really identify himself as a Conservative anymore. He says, I'm just Doug Ford. And some of the policies that they've put forward are basically a reversal of things that they had rolled back from a Liberal government, like investments in healthcare and the minimum wage freeze and all of those things. So congratulations. And, you know, I think if anyone can influence the leader, it doesn't matter what political stripe they are. Humility requires that you take stock of what people have actually been saying. And that popular vote is saying that people want the government to invest in those middle class issues.
Right now, the Liberal Party, of course, votes are still being counted, but they are still a few seats short of official party status. Would gaining official party status be a victory for the Liberal Party? And if they don't, what message does that send?
I think it would be a huge victory. It's obviously something that the Liberals have been aiming for. If not, again, it's rebuilding. Nothing happens overnight. They've made really good progress, and it's a long game, and it's not something that the Liberal Party's been around for a long time. It's going to continue to be around for a long time, and the people who've been involved and are invested in this party and are part of this party, they are very loyal people, and they will continue to do that work. This is not something that is over tonight at all.
It's not over, but the narrative now is, Kim, that the race for second place, it seems pretty clear that the NDP will likely take that spot. What is the future for that party?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things, and look, it's never easy being on the ugly side of election night, and so my heart goes out to Steven Del Duca and Liberals. There's also the last two campaigns, this one and in 2018, there was a lot of burning of the furniture, and where we saw Liberal strategist after Liberal strategist say, the NDP is to blame for their woes, the NDP is the problem, and the whole Andrea Horwath would be worse than Doug Ford and all of this stuff, really trying to diminish the New Democrat brand. But what we were seeing on doorstep after doorstep was that voters, Ontarians, were tired of what happened for 15 years. They were tired of promises that came in, like the guaranteed basic income that came in at the last possible moment under a 15-year government. They were tired of performative measures. They saw what Steven Del Duca had to offer and said, no, we saw this, and it didn't live up to the hype. Buck a Ride would have bankrupted transit agencies across Ontario. That's what they rejected. They need to go back to the drawing board, and I know there's burning up phone lines right now of Liberal leadership candidates making the rounds.
Yeah, and we are going to have to wrap it up there. Things moving very quickly at this time. Farah and Alan, I'm going to send things back to you.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Yeah, we were hearing that we might hear Green Party leader Mike Schreiner speak at sometime, maybe even soon, so just stay tuned for that. But first, we want to take a look at the seat gains and losses that we're seeing tonight. How will Queen's Park look different today?
Well, look at the number there. Leading and elected 76-27 for the NDP, Liberals 10, Greens at 1. Just compare that to 2018, Farah, when it was a juggernaut against Kathleen Wynne and the Liberals, where the Progressive Conservatives win 76 in 2018. They're there already.
Wow. And the NDP, too, benefiting from that Liberal collapse as well. Here's your historic popular vote, and you were seeing an increase with the PCs by just a few percentage points, but as Ellen mentioned, that's going to translate into seats. The NDP down. They are down in the popular vote. The Liberals up, but they were it was pretty low last time, and even the Greens up as well.
So we know that the NDP will form official opposition, but when you look at that popular vote, what is so key there is that the Liberal number comes up. And because the Liberal number comes up, then you see more of a split between the NDP and the Liberal. And it's pretty clear that that's allowed some progressive Conservatives to win in places where traditionally maybe they wouldn't have a shot.
So you see where they parked their vote instead of voting.
Because the split between the progressives has been more marked this time than last time in 2018. Okay. That's why you're seeing so many more, such a commanding victory by the progressive Conservatives tonight.
Absolutely. Let's go to Carrie Ferguson. She's with Global Peterborough, the bellwether. Tell us about that area and others that you're watching.
Yeah, Farah, Allen, things are getting really exciting here now. We have results just pouring in for the 3 ridings we are covering, and we have 2 elected so far. So let's start in Peterborough-Kawartha. This one hasn't been called quite yet, but it's getting close. Look at that. Dave Smith, the incumbent here, 40% of the vote at this time. Last time around, he ended up with 37%. So that's a pretty healthy lead for him right now. Greg Dempsey in second from the Liberals. And here we go. David Pacini has been reelected. This really is no surprise here. He is back for a second term. He has been rewarded before. As I said earlier, he has made such a name for himself in that riding. And again, no surprise, Laurie Scott has been reelected. She is back for a 6th term. That's right, 6th term since 2003, capturing 52% of the vote this time around. And again, the numbers aren't done yet, but a very healthy lead for all the PCs in our ridings. Farah, Alan, back to you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Let's go back to David Aiken with a look at some of the interesting races. And as we're looking at the details coming along the side of your screen, we're seeing a number of places where we're not getting any results at all.
You've got that right. So if you did the math on the numbers below, 78 leading or elected PCs, 27 leading or elected New Democrats, 10 Liberals, 1 Green, 1 other. That 1 other is Haldeman Norfolk. You don't get 124. That's the number of seats in the legislature. So these gray areas, why are they gray? We haven't got any results on them. And that's because Elections Ontario had some problems in all of these ridings, extended the hours of some polls, and Elections Ontario will not release any results for these ridings until all the polls have closed. Way up here in Kiiwetinoong, that is the riding held by Salmamakwa. No results in. I'm going to put that at the end of the night in the NDP column. Saul's a rock star in his caucus in the region. So that now the NDP might get to 28. What about Thunder Bay, Atikokan? It is NDP. They're the incumbents. It might be Liberal at the end of the day, but that could be NDP as well. This right here, Algoma Manitoulin, Michael Mantha, he should win this. He might want to run for leader if Andrea Horwath decides to move along. So there's, as I say, in the north, you could probably maybe give the NDP 3 more seats. They might get to 30. But then these other grey seats, as we are here in Ontario, Perth, Wellington, that's conservative. That's now we get to 82 for the PCs. Right here, the wraparound Flamborough-Glanbrook, Donna Skelly, she's the incumbent. She's likely to be repeat, but we have no results yet. So I just wanted to point those out. We'll probably see the NDP bump, maybe up to 30. The PCs, boy, Mike Harris won 82 in a 130-seat legislature. Right now, Doug Ford has an 81 in his column in a 124-seat legislature. You know the best performance by a progressive conservative since 1945? Mike Harris was 2. Leslie Frost, way back in 1955, won something like 90. So Doug Ford right now, he's going to put himself in the history books if he hangs around 81. That would be one of the best ever. I also wanted to note, too, we haven't talked about this, 2 pickups at the NDP expense down in the southwest corner. Essex, that was an NDP stronghold. Taras Natishik held it. He's not running again. And right now, Anthony Leardy has a 4,000 vote lead over the New Democrat Ron Leclerc. That is the riding of Essex. And then we go the other side of Windsor, just north of Windsor, Windsor-Tecumseth. This is a bit of a surprise to me. I would put this in Liberal NDP territory, but not tonight. Right now, Andrew Dowie is leading with a 4,500-point lead.
All right, David, I have some stunning news. You're going to want to stay tuned for this. We can confirm now that Steven Del Duca has lost his seat in Vaughan-Woodbridge. Take a look at the results. You see Steven Del Duca far behind Michael Tibollo. A lot of questions are going to start now about his leadership, what happens to him, his future, and you see the Liberal Party right now with 8 seats.
Let's get right to our Sean O'Shea, who's at Liberal headquarters first tonight. Sean.
Alan Farah, what a disaster for the Liberal Party tonight. I mean, we were hearing through this election campaign that the Liberals thought they were going to get 20, more than 20 seats. Earlier tonight, I was asking Liberal operatives here about what would constitute a win for them, a win. The bottom line was basically party status. But, when your leader can't win the seat that he lost last time and you're below party status right now, man, oh man, is that ever a bad night? I've been covering elections for 35 years. I haven't seen so few people at a leader's headquarters at this stage of the evening, but maybe that's a reflection of the support for the party. I interviewed the neighbor of Steven Del Duca. They were hopeful. Talked to some folks down on the floor behind me who had campaigned, but you never got the sense that anybody in the party was all that hopeful beyond just that bare party status. Of course, things aren't over, but as you've said, the fact that Steven Del Duca now twice cannot win this riding is a really big problem. Not to say he couldn't, run in a by-election and hang on, but if you don't make party status and you don't win your own riding twice in a row, that's something. Back to you.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty tough to come back from.
And worth pointing out, all the other leaders let us watch, have a pool camera, which means a camera joint by all the broadcasters while they're watching the results. Steven Del Duca said nope, he didn't want any camera for him watching the results. Makes you wonder about their internal polling leading up to tonight. Let's go to Tracy Tong now. She's joined by our panel. A lot to chew over here, specifically about the Liberals, Tracy.
Yeah, absolutely, Farah, and our panel is going to weigh in on exactly that. We heard the results just moments ago. Sarbjeet, I want to ask you about Steven Del Duca losing his riding. The party is now in third. They have not yet even made official party status. What do you make of all of this, and what does this say about the party?
You know, I think it must be very difficult for Steven Del Duca and his family right now. So again, as I mentioned, he really gave it his all. He has a very strong work ethic. He was out there every day, 8, 10 events a day, knocking on doors and making himself available. And really, he has helped some other candidates win their seats. So it's not just always about yourself. There's definitely some selflessness there in serving your party. In terms of what it means for the party, you know, when one door closes, there are always opportunities, and there's opportunities to rebuild, refresh, and move forward. And that's where, you know, there's a lot of younger people, there's a lot of new members who are interested, and new candidates who are bringing more people into the Liberal fold. So it's going to be an opportunity for them to take stock and see what the next step is after this initial progress that is hard fought and is still progress.
Yeah, we'll have to see whether he stays on as party leader, whether that is even a choice that the party makes. We're going to have to send things back to the desk for now for some developing news.
All right, thank you. We are on Mike Schreiner watch, actually, Tracy, because he is going to be speaking any minute. But can you explain, Al, the process of a leadership review? Like, what happens now?
Well, it's funny. Colin DeMello and I were looking over the Liberal Constitution, what this means. So the Liberals would have to have something placed on the agenda, the annual general meeting. They would have something put on the agenda like, do you want a convention? That is automatic. So Liberals will be able to vote as to whether they want a convention. And I don't even think it's going to come to that, considering what the night is going to bring.
Right.
But essentially, it's an automatic review. There will be some kind of automatic review. Members can decide whether or not they want to go to convention or not. But I think you can read the writing
between the lines, what's going to happen. The interesting thing, even when the leader was picked, right, when Steven Del Duca was picked, I mean, you're the one who told me that, you know, he went early. He had a lot of funding. Michael Couteau talked about the Del Duca factor because he had a lot of funding to get to where he needed to be in terms of the leadership race.
I mean, it was widely known, even when Kathleen Wynne was still premier, even before the last election campaign in 2018, everybody knew Steven Del Duca had his eye on the leadership. He was already organizing, had a kind of a shadow organization. And so when it came to a point where it was like, okay, yes, we're going to choose a new leader, he was off to the races before anybody else.
Yeah, and you have to wonder, I mean, yes, he was chosen to do this, but, you know, as one of our producers, Michael Goldberg, said to me recently, he said, you know, does he seem like a person or does he seem like a candidate to you, right? Is this somebody that you're going to go have, you know, a coffee with or a drink with? We actually did polling on that. David, I'm going to bring you in on this too, because we did polling on that by Ipsos, and the answer was that people want to go for a drink with neither of them, with neither Andrea Horwath or with Steven Del Duca. And I feel bad saying this, and I shouldn't laugh because it's, you know, it is polling and facts, but they could be watching right now, so it's a hard thing to say, but maybe they weren't relatable.
You know, Farah, there's a lot of political science on this, and it says voters on the left need to love their leader. That explains the Jack Layton phenomena for the NDP. It explains Justin Trudeau in 2015. There was some love among those supporters for those leaders. There's no love for Steven Del Duca. I'm not sure there's any love for Andrea Horvath. The people on the left want to be inspired. They want to really like their leader. Voters on the right, they just want competence. They don't need to love somebody. That kind of explains Stephen Harper. Wasn't really so lovable, but his supporters thought he was pretty competent. Same thing perhaps here with Doug Ford. I want to, if you don't mind my segue here, just before we might hear from Mike Schreiner, the Liberals have 9 that they're leading and elected in. I'm trying to find the path to 3 seats to get them official party status. Can you imagine the big red machine, the Liberals that have, you know, had some success in Ontario, 2 legislatures in a row, they're not even official party status. They need 3. Let's take a look at some seats where they've won one. This is one right now we're looking at in Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte. Jeff Lehman, the former mayor of Barrie, has a 263 vote lead on Doug Downey, the incumbent and Ford cabinet member. 263 votes, Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte. But at least that's right now, just by a hair, in the Liberal column. Okay, where else could the Liberals find another seat to get to 12? Why don't we take a look at Humber River, Black Creek. Federally, it's Liberal, but right now, the incumbent, Tom Rakocevic, is got a 127 vote lead. NDP in Humber River, Black Creek up by 127 votes. If Ida Lepretti can just close that gap, maybe the Liberals get to 10 on their way to 12. Now, what's another one? How about we take a look at Etobicoke Lakeshore? Christine Hogarth has a 360 vote lead over the Liberal there. So there's maybe a couple of seats, but it's going to be tough for the Liberals to be official party status as we look to Guelph, my hometown, and the elected MP there, Mike Schreiner.
Right. And there he is, walking in and greeting his supporters. Of course, he wants to see that other seat, right, where the Green Party is, but he has been elected. And there he is with his wife walking in and shaking hands.
Yeah, it's Sandy Welsh, his wife. You know, I think everyone really felt that Mike Schreiner, if you had to pick a winner from the televised leaders debate, it was Mike Schreiner that, you know, perhaps had the most pointed attacks against Doug Ford. A lot of people felt that he did the best, although Doug Ford may have won it just simply by nobody was able to make anything stick to him. The question will be tonight at the end of the night, does Mike Schreiner able to pick anything up? It doesn't look like that at this point, but at least he will be heading back. And he is an affable guy. He is, in terms of the media, he's always there with a quip and a quote. Very likable and clearly well-liked in Guelph.
You mentioned could he pick something else up. In Parry Sound Muskoka right now, the Green candidate is 1,300 votes behind.
Ooh, okay, so that might not be the path. Let's listen in live here to Mike Schreiner.
Thank you, Guelph. Thank you, Guelph, so much. I want to say to everyone across this province, those of you who stood up and put yourself out there to be a candidate, thank you for doing that. Our democracy is better because of your service. Four years ago, we made history in Guelph, electing Ontario's first Green MPP. And we've made history again, re-electing Ontario's first Green MPP. We are proving that Greens are here to stay. We're building momentum across this riding and across this province. And I just want to say that up the road in Parry Sound, Muskoka, we have a tight race happening there as well. To see a Green candidate so close in a riding that has always gone blue tells you that there is Green momentum. There is a Green wave building across this province. It's not only in Guelph, it's in ridings all across Ontario. And I want to give a shout out to Matt Richter and his team for the amazing campaign they've run. The race in Parry Sound, Muskoka is too close to call right now. And I just want Matt and his family who have worked so hard, and his team, the team that's bringing people-powered change, I want you to know that we're rooting you on for the rest of this evening. All of you in Guelph have shown that we can do politics differently in this province. Yes. That we can work across party lines. Yes. That we can put people before politics, people before partisanship. That we can ensure that we're going to continue fighting so that everyone has an affordable place to call home. That we invest in the frontline healthcare workers who care for us. and that mental health is health. And that as we build connected communities, we will fight to stop the sprawl and protect the places we love. To support small businesses and ensure our communities are climate ready. And so I want to take a moment to thank Green candidates in every riding in this province, because we've seen the Green vote go up in this election. Thank you for your hard work. And the candidates from all parties and all ridings, I encourage you to stay engaged. And I say to my fellow candidates here in Guelph, let's keep working together to build the green and caring city that we love here in Guelph. We need everyone to build the caring, connected, climate-ready Ontario we need. And so I say to the people of this province and in my community, over the last 4 years, I've fought hard to be your voice. And I will fight the next 4 years to be a strong opposition voice in the legislature. To make sure the issues that Ontarians care about are talked about, to bring forward new solutions to the housing affordability crisis, to the cost of living crisis, to the mental health crisis, and to the climate emergency. And make no mistake about it, we will continue to fight and work together at Queen's Park. I will work to amplify your voices because we need change, especially when it comes to acting on the climate emergency. We cannot afford to wait. So I want to congratulate Mr. Ford and the PC party on your victory tonight. The people have spoken. The people have spoken. But at this critical moment in time, I ask you to consider the financial, the economic, and the climate implications of paving over the places we love, the farmland that feeds us, and the nature that protects us. I say this as a fellow Ontarian. The storms, floods, and extreme weather that we've experienced in the last month of this campaign alone shows us what's at stake. What's at stake for my children's future and your children's future. So I say to you, and I say to my opposition colleagues, that we have to work together to make sure this province is climate ready, to make sure that our infrastructure can withstand the storms we've experienced this past month, and to make sure that our economy is ready to be successful in the emerging markets of the new climate economy. Let's work together to get that done. So I want to conclude by thanking my deputy leaders, Abhijit Manet and Beaches East York, and Diane Sachs and University Rosedale, one of my climate heroes, who put forward a climate plan that I ask all parties in the legislature to steal every idea in it, because let's build the Ontario we want. And I say to you both, and to all of our candidates across the province, thank you for sharing our vision and increasing our vote total. And I want to give a quick shout out to my campaign manager here in Guelph, Diane Dance. And to Becky Smith, our provincial campaign manager, who more than anyone has built the Green Party into the party that it is today.
There is Green Party leader Mike Schreiner. You heard him congratulate Doug Ford, but then in the same breath talked about paving over environmental areas and preserved areas. And he was obviously referencing Highway 413 and asking Doug Ford to consider the environmental impact.
81 leading or elected for the Progressive Conservatives. That bests Doug Ford in 2018. And I remember you and I were covered in 2018. And one of the things that was said was by a conservative strategist saying, you know, you can have too big of a majority. I mean, it's a good problem to have, but you could have too many. It's tough to keep them all in line. I want to throw it over to Tracy Tong and get an answer to that. Can you have too big of a majority, Tracy Tong? What's our panel say?
Yeah, and let's ask our panel that. I'm sure Melissa doesn't think that it's a problem at all. But 81 seats is not just a majority, it is a big majority. Does this pose a problem?
Sure, I mean, certainly it gives the Premier the mandate that he was looking for, the mandate to rebuild, to carry on with the ambitious agenda. And I think for a bigger part of this is that we're probably going to have two campaigns in a leadership race. So he's got a runway to govern, to expand that voter coalition even further. And 81 seats. Congratulations to his team. That is no small feat.
The concern on the other end, though, would likely be that there isn't enough challenges or people to challenge him in the legislature. Kim?
Well, I think he's going to have challenges. The challenge is caucus management. And he saw this in the first half of, throughout the pandemic and throughout his first term, managing that caucus. That's why you had a rump that, almost created its own official party under the rules of the legislature, all the independents, floor crossings and what have you. So he's going to have to manage that caucus. He's going to have to manage people with their egos and their own leadership aspirations, whether the Premier decides he's going to go for the three-peat or not.
Yeah, and Sarbjeet, your opinions on this. And here's a fun fact. There are still 5 seats, I believe, if I'm doing the math right, 4 seats left to be counted and called at this time. If the PC seats still remain the same at 80 right now, they would be 8th in line for most seats won by the PCs ever in history. Sarbjeet, what do you make of that?
Yeah, well, I think there's definitely, obviously, the vote splitting that happens with the progressive vote with the Liberals and the NDP. But it will be interesting, a first term, typically they do get a second term. And Doug Ford's first term was a lot of it sidetracked by COVID. And that was kind of almost... he got a bit of a pass for not being able to drive, I would say, regular business because you're trying to deal with a major pandemic. But the second term, with this majority, now it's going to be, showtime to see what you're delivering and if you can follow through on your promises. And people will be a lot more skeptical the second time around, and there will certainly still be people advocating for different things. I like the Green Party leader has just used his victory speech to challenge the Highway 413. So all of that will still continue, and people will still have a say.
All right, lots happening at Party Headquarters. We're going to send things back to Alan and Farah for now.
Okay, thank you for that, Tracy. Let's take a look at some 905 seats, and specifically in Brampton, because it looks like Brampton's gone blue. And we're going to start with this riding. Brampton East defeated Isguratan Singh, the brother of federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. Hardeep Grewal is a up-and-comer in the PC party and, Ford insider, and he's won that seat.
Some people suggested Sarah Singh, deputy leader of the NDP, might take a run at the leadership if Andrea Horwath steps aside, but she has lost her seat in Brampton Centre as it goes to the Progressive Conservatives, and Charmaine Williams winning there.
Now let's take a look at Brampton North. You see Graham McGregor, who has won in that riding. He's a PC ministerial staffer. And he's won from the NDP in Brampton North, taking that seat. There was no incumbent here, by the way.
Prabmeet Sakaria, the president of the Treasury Board, has won re-election. This was a real key pickup for the Conservatives in 2018, and they have returned a PC to this riding again in Brampton South.
And as we look at Brampton West, we see, PC incumbent Amarjot Sandhu defeated Liberal longtime incumbent 4 years ago, and he's held on to his seat in Brampton West.
Let's go to PC headquarters now, and my colleague from AM 640, Toronto's Greg Brady. Greg.
Hi, Alan. It's really remarkable. What an absolute repudiation of Steven Del Duca, the Liberal Party. That's as much the vibe here as anything. It's not just all these incumbents winning, but it's obviously the Liberal Party having nowhere to go, really showing no momentum, coming back really from 2018. And it's there were big cheers all around. Every time they put up Del Duca's riding, every time they see how far he's behind, when it was announced he was defeated, it's the loudest this place has been the last 2.5 hours.
All right, Greg, thank you for that. It is, we're hearing that Doug Ford is going to be speaking very soon, so just stand by for that. Can you call this a supermajority? What do we call this here? 80.
It's certainly a supersized majority. 80 for the Progressive Conservatives, 29 for the NDP, the Liberals at 9, the Green Party at 1. We still have a couple of ridings. There's still some races to call, so all the excitement is not done. There's still some races to call yet. We don't know how a couple of ridings are going. We're keeping our eye on those.
Don't turn off the TV because there's still so many storylines here. David Aiken is going to join us as well. David, there's what's going to happen with Steven Del Duca? What's going to happen with Andrea Horwath? The Greens, any chance they're going to get that other seat, David?
There are. I mean, you just asked me 3 questions. I could go on now for about 25 minutes. But let me give you the short answer on Del Duca. We've just been kicking Del Duca around. You heard Greg Brady at headquarters, repudiation of Del Duca. And maybe. But one of the jobs of a leader is to attract good candidates. When Justin Trudeau was in 3rd place, he managed to recruit Chrystia Freeland and Bill Morneau, etc. Well, Del Duca wasn't such a washout on attracting good candidates, some of whom are leading in Toronto. Take a look at Don Valley West. Kathleen Wynn's old riding. Stephanie Bowman, get to know her. She's in her profession, she's an accountant, a banker. She sat on the Bank of Canada Board of Directors. Very qualified person. Stephanie Bowman leading over the former Chief of Police, Mark Saunders, and that's a good lead. 1,500 votes with almost all the polls in. So that's Stephanie Bowman in Don Valley West. Down here in Beaches, East York, Alan, you've been watching this all night. Mary Margaret McMahon. Alan, tell me, is she not an all-star? Prominent city councillor, believes in term limits, and she's leading in Beaches, East York. And I see the Premier's coming, and I don't want to step on his shoes because I know he wants to show you how he's getting things done. Back to you guys.
Let's listen in live.
So much. Boy, thank you. What an incredible welcome. What? There you go. Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. What a night and what a result. Together, we have done the impossible. We have made history. Wow, I'm just so grateful, so grateful. Oh, boy. Thank you, everyone. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing this unforgettable moment. And I love you, too. I'll tell you, I am so humbled by your support. I see some faces here tonight who've been with my family from day one. But what excites me the most what just pumps me up are all the new faces I see out there. So I am so grateful for all your support over the years. It's what keeps me going. And to the people of Ontario, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your trust. And thank you for once again putting your confidence in me. It's a responsibility that I will never take lightly. But most importantly, thank you for sharing in a vision for our great province. Sharing in a dream of a bright and prosperous future, an era of unprecedented growth and opportunity. So if you're a miner in the north who's out of work, I want you to know we're building that road to the Ring of Fire. If you've had to worry about your job at the local auto plant, I want you to know we're investing in the future of Ontario's auto sector. If you're a student who wants to work in the tech sector, we will have a job waiting for you. If you're a newcomer with a degree who can't get a job in your field, we'll make sure you can get credentials you need. This is what we're working for. This is what the Ontario dream is all about. And my promise to you, you have my word, that every single day I will get up and I will get to work. And I will do everything in my power to deliver on this dream. Because tonight's victory, it isn't about me, it isn't about the party. This victory belongs to every worker who knows that they deserve better. It belongs to every family who knows that they can dream bigger. But most of all, this victory belongs to each and every one of you. And to my rock, my wife Carla, my beautiful daughters, my entire family, thank you for always believing in me, and thank you for standing with me through thick and thin. I want to thank my entire campaign team and every candidate who ran for our party. But most importantly, I want to thank the thousands and thousands of volunteers who spent the last month hitting the doors. Together, we knocked on over 3 million doors during this campaign. That number is absolutely incredible. It's staggering. It takes an army to win a victory like this, so please know that tonight is your night. I also need to take a moment to recognize Andrea, Mike, and Steven. It takes a lot to put your name forward in a race like this. And while we had different ideas, I truly believe that we share a desire to see Ontario succeed. And for my part, they deserve of applause. Thank you. And for my part, I did my best to run a positive campaign, to put forward a clear and consistent message, to offer a plan that everyone could get behind. I promised to build this province, to say yes to more housing, yes to attainable housing, so families once again can strive for the dream of home ownership. To say yes to building the infrastructure that keeps communities going. To put our workers to work, building the subways, the hospitals, and the highways that our growing province desperately needs. To run a smarter, more efficient government so we can reduce the unfair burdens like the license plate stickers and the gas tax. My friends, this is a plan I put forward, and I've spent the last 5 weeks traveling to every corner of this province, meeting with the hardworking women and men who are building Ontario. And I can tell you, we are ready. Ontario's ready to get it done. We're ready to roll up our sleeves, to rise to the occasion, because we have the potential for greatness. We are blessed with every advantage, a bright and hard-working workforce, an abundance of natural resources. We have the critical minerals that the entire world is after. We have the capital, the technology, and the ingenuity. But most importantly, we have a vision, a dream. I see it as I look out into the crowd. I see it in your faces. I see hope. I see optimism. And your energy, your passion, it's what keeps me going every day. My friends, because it all started almost 3 decades ago, right here in Etobicoke. It started with my dad, Doug Ford Sr., my mom, Diane, and my brother, Rob, whose birthday was just last week, and who I owe so much to. I know that they're up there in heaven, and they are celebrating with us tonight. Friends, it started with all of us together, and over the years, we've had our ups and downs. We've tasted victory, and we've faced defeat. But through it all, we never gave up. And when I think about how far we've come, how far we've traveled together, we started as an idea, a new approach to politics. Thanks over the years, thanks to each of you showing up at our events, volunteering at the doors, spreading our message. Thanks to you, what started as an idea turned into a movement. A political movement that changed the landscape of this province and this country forever. Together, we're reimagining our party, we're reimagining our province, and tonight we have changed what it means to be a progressive conservative in Ontario. It's no longer about being part of the blue, the red, the orange, or green team. It's about recognizing that there's so much that unites us. This is my proudest achievement as a leader of this party, building a new coalition, expanding our base, creating a more inclusive party where everyone matters. Because never in our lifetime has it been more important for a party to represent all of Ontario. Now more than ever, we need unity. The road ahead, it won't be easy. We have big challenges in front of us, an uncertain global economic climate. We are competing against other jurisdictions for every job, for every dollar of investment, but Ontario is stronger. We're absolutely unstoppable when we stand together. And so tonight, I call for unity, and whether you work on the assembly line and voted NDP your entire life, or cast your last ballot for the federal Liberals, I want you to know that as long as I'm here, there's room for you in this party. I will fight for you every single day. And friends, when I think about the workers, when I think about the unions who got behind us in this election, when I think about the coalition that we've built together, it's incredible. Because there was a time not long ago when some of the same people who are with us now couldn't see a home for themselves in this party. It wasn't easy. We had to admit our mistakes. We had to build back confidence, and that journey, it's not over. I'm the first to admit that there's more work to be done, but tonight's result, it proves that we're on the right track, that this approach is the right one, and tonight's results proves that this is how we get things done, by being inclusive, by focusing on what unites us, and being ready to work with anyone. And with this approach together, we are unstoppable because we're just getting started. But tonight we celebrate because this is your night. Tonight, the people have spoken from Windsor to Cornwall, from Timmins, and thank God Timmins, to Ajax, new trail. We're charting a new course. We're telling the world this is our time, this is our moment, because this is our province. I want to thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
There he is, Doug Ford, walking off stage with his wife Carla, and I believe that's Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe, whose hand he's shaking. And you can see the balloons coming down there at the Conservative Party headquarters. Now, some interesting words here, Alan, that really struck me. He's talking about unity, a coalition, working together, but also talked about reimagining things, a smarter, more efficient government. What do you make of those words?
It was an interesting speech from him. You know, it wasn't gloating. There was a lot of talk about inclusivity, about, you know, bringing other people under the tent of the Progressive Conservative Party. I thought that was an interesting speech, and you know, all of the outreach the Progressive Conservatives have done, especially to the trades over the course of the last year or so with Monty McNaughton, the Minister of Labour, obviously paid off. Let's get to our panel now and find out what they made of that speech. Tracy Tong.
Hi there. Yeah, we just heard that victory speech from Doug Ford to a chanting crowd. Ford more years, they yelled. And he talked about getting it done. He gave a nod to the other party leaders. He talked about making history. We want to bring in our panel now just to talk and break down a little bit what happened in that speech. Melissa, you worked with Doug Ford in the 2018 election campaign. This speech, as Alan just mentioned, seemed to take a bit of a turn and seemed very inclusive, seemed to build on the party a lot more. And this was, as we've talked about tonight, a more disciplined Doug Ford.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I think the speech was one that was telling. They've expanded their voter coalition. They've reimagined the Conservative voter coalition with the unions. Alan mentioned the work of Monty McNaughton. I think he's certainly up there as MVP in Doug Ford's universe. He's opened the party up to trades. He continued to talk about affordability, about the cost of living crisis. It's not going to be an easy 4 years to get some of these things done, but as you heard it, they're on the path to getting those things done. An ambitious agenda and a long 4 years ahead.
He loves saying that, get it done. So what's the first thing do you think that he is going to get?
Look, I think they've ran on a consistent message of build, 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 get over COVID, get past COVID, restart the economy and get people to work.
Okay, we are hearing that we may hear from Andrea Horwath very soon. Kim, I want to get to you next. Horwath talked about fixing the things that Doug Ford had done. The NDP has lost some seats this time around. Can the party still do that?
Absolutely. They're the official opposition again for the second election in a row. So there's lots to build on. Was it the results I wanted to see? No. Are there always heartbreaking moments on election night? Absolutely. But what was interesting that I heard from the Premier, and you know, I got to know the Ford family at Toronto City Hall, working with former Mayor Rob Ford and with Doug when he was a councillor, now before he was Premier. What I've seen tonight is very reminiscent of the victory speech Rob Ford gave, in that talking of a unity. Also looking at some of the people that got elected tonight and that ran under the PC Party banner, very much a municipal feel to it, where it's for kind of eschewing sort of traditional labels about politics, but how do you get things done? Now look, there's a lot of things that I'm looking for in this new government. What are they going to cut? Are they going to go back at those cuts to public health that they wanted to? Are they just going to start building? You know, there's lots of question marks, and we can leave that for another day, but the unity message that he's trying to portray, especially for a premier who only is tracking about 41-42%, so that's still about 60% of Ontarians who were not, you know, looking to the premier to get her done.
All right, and we see Andrea Horvath is actually taking her place at the podium right now, so we'll send things back to the desk.
Well, hello,
all right,
friends.
There she is, Andrea Horvath, about to speak.
Bonjour, chers amis. Thank you, Janelle Brady, for that wonderful introduction and for all of your hard work as our party president. I want to begin by thanking every NDP candidate that stepped up and put their name on the ballot this election. You literally are the most impressive team of candidates that has ever been fielded ever in this province. I've never seen a team so smart, so accomplished, so diverse, and so dedicated, with so much energy and fight. I'm so proud of each and every one of you. And thank you to the thousands and thousands of folks that volunteered on our campaigns in every corner of Ontario. Thousands of people every single day fighting in our campaigns. Thank you so much for that hard work. Thank you so much for that hard work. In fact, and I've said this over the last couple of days as we've been going through the province, you literally are the beating heart of our party and our movement. Thank you. You're so wonderful. And to our awesome campaign staff, hello. Hello. On the ground and at our headquarters, what an amazing team. Let's give it up for them. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And you know what? My special thanks to the folks who voted for our amazing candidates. So many people voted for our amazing candidates for good reason, because they're amazing candidates. And so thank you, thank all of you for making your ballot, marking your ballot for hope, marking your ballot for optimism, marking your ballot for what we can do together. And thank you so much to the millions of Ontarians who made their voices heard in this election. They actually made their voices heard. To every Ontarian, regardless of who you voted for, thank you for caring. Thank you for caring about our province and our future. I'd like to take a minute to thank Steven Del Duca, Mike Schreiner, and Doug Ford for representing their parties well. Everyone who puts their name on a ballot is stepping up and making our democracy stronger. There's no doubt about it. But you're probably not surprised to know that I could not be more proud of the vision that we put before Ontario, we put a vision forward of a province where everyone can get the health care that they need when they need it, close to home. A strong, universal healthcare system without painful waits and hallway medicine, where we respect and value our incredible healthcare heroes. Let's give it up for our healthcare heroes. And not only where we respect them, but where we have their back, like they always have our backs. That's how much we have to respect our frontline healthcare workers. Where we have affordable dental care for every Ontarian, mental health and pharmacare into OHIP, seniors care that puts support and respect for our loved ones ahead of corporate profits. The top-notch public education our kids deserve in good schools with enough caring adults. A plan to tackle the crises in housing and affordability, get wages up and rents down. A new way forward where we respect and fulfill the treaties. Working shoulder to shoulder with Indigenous people to fix what's broken, from clean water to livable housing. Urgently tackling the climate crisis, urgently tackling the climate crisis. Doing our part to ensure that the next 7 generations have a healthy planet and a bright future, full of opportunity, and doing so much more to build a province without hate, bigotry, or discrimination of any kind. We will never stop fighting to make these goals a reality for people in Ontario. In every corner of this province, people are counting on us to be on their side. And I know, without a doubt, the team of New Democrats elected tonight will work hard every single day for you. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's true. New Democrats will always stand up for everyday working families. Always. For every person who needs support from their government. For every Ontarian trying to build a better life for themselves and their family. Everyone trying to build a stronger foundation and a brighter future for the next generation. And so tonight the people have spoken, and they've sent a very clear message. The majority of Ontarians have not endorsed or supported the Conservative government. And I just want to say that Doug Ford needs to realize that. He needs to understand that Ontarians did not vote for more cuts and privatization of the things that matter the most to all of us. Ontarians did not vote for more painful waits and more hallway medicine, more horrific mistreatment of our loved ones in seniors' care, or for more of our kids' schools to crumble into disrepair. That's not what Ontarians voted for. They did not vote for more of their friends and neighbors to slip through the cracks, to struggle and scrape by, living paycheck to paycheck, or slip into poverty. They didn't vote for an even less affordable province, where the hope of buying a home or even renting a decent place you can afford becomes more and more of a pipe dream. The majority of Ontarians did not vote for big highways to big houses that no one can afford. They didn't vote for our most vulnerable to be trapped in legislated poverty. They did not vote for a government that ignores its treaty obligations or ignores the rising tide of hate, division, and violence targeting so many communities in our province. And they didn't vote for a government that ignores science, carves up the greenbelt, and makes the climate crisis worse instead of better. And you know what? These are the worries that people have shared with me throughout the years. And that's why I have fought so hard for them. And you know what? Respecting the voters means listening to all that they tell us. And this is something I want to remind Mr. Ford about, that respecting the voters is about listening to all of what they tell us. So I'm going to save my final thanks for my family, my friends, and the people of Hamilton. And my commitment to you is never going to waver. And I'm going to keep working to earn your confidence each and every day. I'm going to keep doing that. But tonight, it's time for me to pass the torch, to pass the baton, to hand off the leadership of the NDP. And you know what? It makes me sad, but it makes me happy because our team is so strong right now. So strong. You know, I brought a tissue, and my grandma would have normally tucked it under her sleeve, but my sleeve's too loose, and so I had to tuck it into my belt. But I'm not shedding tears of sadness. I'm shedding tears of pride. Look at you. Look at all of you. Look at what we have done together. Look at what we have done together. Honestly. Together, my friends, we have built a party that is stronger and more ready to govern than ever before. And you know what? You know what? We didn't get there this time. We didn't get there this time. But just know that we will continue to be the powerful champions people need us to be in order to fight Doug Ford's cuts. And you know what? We are once again going to be your official opposition. And I can guarantee you, Ontarians, that as your official opposition, we will work hard every single day to fix what matters most to the people of our province of Ontario. You know why? Do you know why we're going to do that work? Because your priorities were our priorities before the election, and they were our priorities during the election, and they will be our priorities after the election, because that's who we are as New Democrats. And so I want to end by guaranteeing every Ontarian that we will always, always be working for you. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. Miigwech Nyaweh.
The fourth and the last time Andrea Horwath will give a speech like this as leader of the Ontario NDP. After 4 terms, she is now passing the baton. Alan, she said the tears we saw were tears of pride, not sadness.
It is time to hand over the leadership of the NDP and pass it along. Let's find out who possibly might be eyeing that up as a potential job down the line. Let's go to David Aiken with some potential NDP leadership hopefuls.
Yeah, and you know, just before, guys, that didn't sound like a speech from a retiring politician, maybe retiring from the leader of the NDP, but there's municipal jobs she's been rumored, Andrea Horvath, to be interested in, maybe mayor of Hamilton. Okay, who might be the leader of the NDP? One riding we haven't talked about all night is the riding of Davenport in downtown Toronto. We haven't talked about it because it's an NDP slam dunk. The winner there is Marit Stiles. Used to be on the school board. She beat the Liberal Jerry Levitan in Davenport. I think Marit Stiles, people will ask her, do you want to try to be leader? There are people in the NDP caucus, particularly downtown Toronto, who think Marit Stiles could be a good leader. Marit Stiles won an easy one in Davenport. You know who won a tough one? Is Jennifer French out there in Oshawa. In fact, we haven't declared her elected yet. She's still leading in a tight race in Oshawa. Jennifer French, 42% of the vote, 47 of 49 polls in, over Alex Down, Progressive Conservative, with 40% of the vote in. So Jennifer French out there in Oshawa, think about Jennifer French as a potential NDP leadership candidate. Finally, somebody we don't even have a vote that we can tell you about tonight is way up there in Algoma, Manitoulin. Michael Mantha may also run for the NDP leadership. We'll see about that. And now here's Steven Del Duca.
All right, here's Liberal leader Steven Del Duca speaking now.
Well, thank you so very much for that incredible welcome into this room. It is really wonderful for me to see all of you. So many in this room that I know have worked so hard through so many weeks, so many months, in some cases friends and supporters who have worked side by side with me, with my family for many, many years. I want to thank Ontarians. You think about this for a moment, we are so very fortunate in Canada to have such a thriving and healthy democracy where every single vote counts. And whether this was your first election or your 40th, thank you for doing your civic duty. I also want to thank all of the candidates in every riding. You know, I've said this many times before, putting one's name on a ballot is not an easy decision. And going door to door, attending debates and events and working to explain your views, explain your vision to the people of Ontario is also very, very hard. And every single bit of it takes courage. I want to thank all of the candidates who stood for office in this election. To Andrea Horwath, to Mike Schreiner, and to Doug Ford, I want to say thank you for stepping up and leading your parties. Thank you for making the sacrifices that come with traveling the province, well, for weeks at a time, months at a time, and for enduring the scrutiny that comes with leadership. It's not always easy, and we often don't agree, but I respect each of you for stepping up as leaders. And I want to say thank you and congratulations to our Ontario Liberal team, to the women and men all over this province who chose to stand up and who chose to fight so hard. I am incredibly, incredibly proud of each and every one of you. Yes, all of our candidates, every single candidate. Our Ontario Liberal Party, our Ontario Liberal family, has come so very far so fast, and during a pandemic no less. You think about this for just a moment. We had a diverse and inclusive roster of candidates, with, for the first time ever in our party's history, 50% of our candidates being female. Absolutely, absolutely. And so many of our candidates, so many of them determined, because as being younger candidates, so determined to help shape Ontario's future. Now, to be clear, this isn't the outcome that we had hoped for and worked hard for. And yes, it's true, I am disappointed to not have been successful here in my home community, my home riding of Vaughan-Woodbridge. But I am very, very proud of all of our MPPs, both those caucus members who will be returning to the legislature and our newly elected MPPs. I'm proud of the innovative ideas that we as a team brought forward. Proud of every one of you who fundraised, knocked on doors, made those phone calls, put up signs, and today got out the vote. I want to thank our riding association presidents. I know many of you have heard me say this before. Many years ago, before I first became an MPP, I had the chance to serve as a riding association president. I had the chance to serve as a campus club president and to serve on multiple riding executives. And so, to the women and men who make up the rank and file, if I can put it that way, of our party, yes, our PLA presidents, including my own, Christina Cindric. Thank you so much, Christina. To our riding association presidents and executives, to our Ontario Young Liberals, to our Ontario Women's Liberal Commission, and to Brian Johns, our party president, and the entire Ontario Liberal Party Executive Council, thank you. Thank you. And I just want to say again, I have no doubt that the women and men that Ontario Liberals have elected to the legislature will do their part. In fact, will do more than their part to help grow a new and energetic progressive movement here in Ontario. It will, however, be a movement that will be led by a new leader. Earlier this evening, I informed our party president of my decision to step down from the leadership of our party. and I have asked him to meet with the executive to set a leadership contest for as soon as is reasonable. I am again so very proud of the work that we did. And here is something else that I know. Watching how we've grown, watching how we've grown stronger, watching how we've worked so hard to build this party over the last couple of years, I know that we as a political family and we as a political movement will be starting the next campaign from a much better place. In addition to the new MPPs that we've added, we've attracted, think about this, we've attracted tens of thousands of new volunteers and party members to take up the fight. And we anticipate that the party will be debt-free by the end of this year. By the end of this year. But more importantly, I know that Ontario Liberals will use our new, stronger platform to continue to propose thoughtful, innovative, progressive ideas to make our province a place to grow. Today, the voters of our province have spoken, and they've delivered a majority government to the Conservatives. I want to congratulate Premier Ford, and I hope he leads our province well. Now, I say that, and I mean that sincerely, because above all else, I'm a dad. I'm a dad to Talia and Grace, who are sitting right here. And I want my daughters to grow up in a province, an incredible opportunity, an incredible Ontario, that offers them even more opportunity than I had growing up here. I trust that the incredible responsibility of leading this great province will weigh heavily on Mr. Ford. I know that it would for me, because after all, it is a big deal. It's a big deal to be entrusted with the hopes and dreams of millions of people. And as a party, I know that we will redouble our efforts to earn your trust, because we don't care where you came from, how long you've been here, who you're connected to, or how much money you have, or what your station in life is. We care that you feel respected. We care that you feel included. We care that you feel seen. And we'll look right past the neighborhood that you live in, rich or poor, rural or urban, north or south, to make sure that you get your chance to succeed. That's what Ontario Liberals believe in. That's the Ontario that we will always fight for. And you know that we will do this, because what's important to us is pretty simple. We want the best for you, the best education, the best health care, the best quality of life, all supported by the best jobs and the strongest economy, and we won't ever stop working to make that happen. Now, the last thing that I want to say as I wrap up is that there are a lot of people, and I can see so many of you as I stand here at this podium, and I know that you in this room represent thousands of others right across Ontario. Now, the women and men who never stand at a podium and never see their names in the paper, but I and every single one of our candidates, well, we stand on your shoulders. But there are three names that are most important to me of all: Utilia, Talia, and Grace, my wife and our daughters. You should see the look on their faces right now. My wife and our two daughters, who I love so, so much, who've inspired me, who've motivated me and supported me every single step of the way. And I can confirm that we've already agreed that we'll be at Wonderland this Sunday, right, guys? Now, they're the reason. They're the reason that I do this. They're the reason that I do everything. They're the reason that I've always been able to do what I've tried hard to do. Now, there's some other people that I want to thank as well. They're not in the room right now, but they are upstairs. And those are my parents, Margaret and Benny. Yes, please. My mom and dad, I've said this so many times, they literally moved heaven and earth for me, and from my sister Lorraine, and from my brothers Mark and Michael. They did everything for us, sacrificed, so dedicated, so hardworking. They still are. I want to say, Mom, Dad, I love you so much, and I am so grateful for everything that you've always done for me. Thank you. And I also want to thank a number of the people who've worked so hard. I'm looking out at an audience of people who I know have been knocking on doors here in Vaughan-Woodbridge, led by Andrew Donaghy, our local campaign manager. Andrew, thank you so much. And honestly, if I start naming all of the names of people who've worked hard over the past 4 weeks, and in some cases like Rocco Grossi over the past 30 years with me, that's Rocco Grossi, by the way, Rocco Grossi. But I want to thank you all. I want to thank you all for being with me every step of the way. You know, this has been an incredible journey for me in this party, in this political family that I love so much. And as I said earlier in my remarks this evening, I know that we will go forward. I know that we will never stop working. I know that we will continue to grow and to be a force for good, a force for positive change here in Ontario. It is what Ontario Liberals do. It is what we do well. It is what we should continue to do, and again, I know we will. And I just want to say, having had the chance over the past couple of years to serve as your leader has been the honor of my lifetime. I want to thank you. I want to thank all Ontario Liberal Party members for giving me this chance, for working alongside me, and for making sure that we always put our best foot forward. So, thank you for this. Thank you for your incredible work. Thank you for always being there for me and for each other. And I look forward to doing whatever I can to continue to support our party and build an Ontario that is always a place to grow. Thank you so very much. Really appreciate it.
Steven Del Duca finishing his speech. Obviously, this was not the result that we'd hoped for, and announcing that he will step down as leader of the Liberal Party after failing to win his riding, and at this point only electing 8 Liberals back to Queen's Park.
And you know, like, you put the politics aside for a second and think about this man, right? This man who wanted to be a politician since he was young. He's been around Ontario politics, was a volunteer organizer, manager, staffer, MPP, cabinet minister. He knew what it took to win, but he couldn't win himself, you know, and there's just a lot to digest. That must have been a very hard speech to give. Let's go to Tracy Tong, who is joined by our panel. What's happened in the past half an hour? Tracy.
A lot has happened in the last half hour. Farah and Alan, we just heard a couple of bombshell announcements, and let's start with what happened with Steven Del Duca. He lost his riding. His party gained a seat, but not enough to make official party status. Sarbjeet, I want to ask you, he talked about rebuilding trust in the party. What will that take from this point forward?
You know, I think he's acknowledged that there's still more work to be done. He's reminded everyone of what the Liberal Party stands for and will continue to stand for. But he's also opened the door and very graciously made it clear that he will step aside to let the person and people and new fresh faces take over and take the party into another direction, whether that means you know, appealing to younger voters, whether that means again differentiating the party more clearly to the alternative options. And you know, it's a very difficult time for him, but I felt his speech was very gracious, very sincere, and you know, it was great that he got the opportunity to acknowledge all the hard work that's gone into the campaign, not only by himself, but the candidates, the volunteers, so many people who sacrificed countless hours of their lives for this wonderful exercise.
Yeah. And Kim, I know we don't have much time left, but I want to touch on Andrea Horwath's speech, a very emotional one. She knew that she was stepping down. It's been talked about and speculated for days. What do you think is in her immediate future? And tonight, her speech almost sounded like it was part of the campaign. Is she setting the stage stage for the next leader?
Look, I think she has set the stage incredibly well for the next leader, whomever that person may choose to be. We'll get to that in the coming days and weeks, but I thought she gave an emotional and heartfelt speech. She is always wears her heart on her sleeve, and I think she has put the party in very good stead over her time as leader, and I have to say thank you to Andrea Horvath, thank you to the team, and thank you to our candidates.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to have to send things back to the desk now.
Thank you for that, Tracy. At this time, we'd like to say good night to our listeners who joined us on our Global News radio partners.
We're also saying good night to our friends in Global Kingston. Bill Hutchins will have your 11 o'clock newscast next. But for everyone else, please stay with us. We have a very special edition of Global News at 11 with a full wrap-up of tonight's events where the Progressive Conservatives have won another commanding majority in the province of Ontario.
Thanks for staying with us.
Welcome back to Decision Ontario 2022, and welcome to everyone joining us for the first time this evening.
All right, let's recap. Global News is projecting a progressive conservative majority government.
The NDP is in second, but leader Andrea Horwath has announced it is time to pass the leadership torch.
And Liberal leader Steven Del Duca just announced he will also step aside.
There's a lot to discuss this evening, but first, let's hear from Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford.
And to the people of Ontario, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your trust, and thank you for once again putting your confidence in me. It's a responsibility that I will never take lightly. But most importantly, thank you for sharing in a vision for our great province. Sharing in a dream of a bright and prosperous future, an era of unprecedented growth and opportunity.
Let's check in with our Matthew Bingley, who is at PC headquarters for us tonight. We saw Doug Ford a little while ago working the room. Is he still there?
No, he is. He headed out, not onto the party bus, but to definitely an after party. One thing that I just wanted to really highlight in that speech there with Doug Ford, speaking about the unity that he needs to see and wants to see coming from people in the province. Talking about jobs, making sure that whether you're a newcomer in the province or a miner out of work, is his exact wording, that there are jobs that the PCs want to focus on getting done. Now, I had a chance to talk with one of the campaign managers. He was talking about the fact that they were staying on message through this entire campaign, trying to make sure that, yes, this was a message of getting it done. That is something they stuck with. All through the evening, that is something that they were really focused on, of not only talking about the union workers that they were able to pick up support from, which really delivered a strong result, especially in areas that were not typical PC ridings. And sure enough, you see the results as that wash of blue right across many regions. And tomorrow, we had a chance to actually talk with them just after that speech. Tomorrow, day number one, the job starts to get done, and Doug Ford is ready to go, but probably first a little partying. I'll send it back to you.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate that. Let's go to NDP headquarters. I guess good news is their official opposition. The challenge is they are now without a leader. They have to find a new leader. Shalima Maharaj.
Well, Alan, there is still quite a bit of cheering going on here. Obviously, the news that Andrea Horwath is stepping down was something that a lot of people had been talking about, speculating about, but we really weren't sure whether or not we were going to hear any indication tonight, and clearly we did. And she teared up immediately when she was talking about it. I mean, she did talk about the fact that they essentially, they are going to be in this position again as official opposition. They talked about, thanking the people of Ontario for going out, having their say, regardless of who they voted for. But at the end of the day, she is passing the torch. Take a listen to that emotional clip.
My commitment to you is never going to waver. And I'm going to keep working to earn your confidence each and every day. I'm going to keep doing that. But tonight, it's time for me to pass the torch, to pass the baton, to hand off the leadership of the NDP. And you know what? It makes me sad, but it makes me happy, because our team is so strong right now.
So you heard it there. She's vowing to continue working. In what capacity remains to be seen. Now, there has also been speculation about whether or not she's eyeing another run at municipal politics. We remember that she was elected to Hamilton City Council back in 1997 and served 3 terms before being elected to the legislature. And of course, she had been at the helm of the party since 2009. So there's a lot that's going to be looked into. Quite a bit of noise still going on here, a very active environment. But certainly we're also, going to have a closer look, I'm sure, in the coming days and weeks at who potentially could replace her in this capacity. But what is next for Andrea Horvath? The big and central question. But for now, I'll send it back to you.
Hey, Shalima, thank you so much for that. The next storyline we're going to discuss is the Liberals, both the poor showing tonight, but also, as Sean O'Shea joins us, the fate of Steven Del Duca. He has decided to step down as leader.
Well, Farah, politics is a blood sport. You don't get participation points coming second. People are not respectful of that, really. Steven Del Duca, the Liberals, they took a beating tonight. They expected a lot more. They expected to win seats. They expected that their leader, Steven Del Duca, would be able to win a seat here, although the party people told me as things were developing tonight that this really didn't come entirely as a surprise based on their polling and what they saw door to door. The fact is that, he just couldn't get it done the way that Doug Ford promised to get it done as a campaign slogan, and as a result, Steven Del Duca said that he is not going to be the leader of the Liberal Party of Ontario anymore. Here's part of what he had to say just a few minutes ago here in Woodbridge.
Earlier this evening, I informed our party president of my decision to step down from the leadership of our party. and I have asked him to meet with the executive to set a leadership contest for as soon as is reasonable. I am again so very proud of the work that we did. And here is something else that I know. Watching how we've grown stronger, watching how we've worked so hard to build this party over the last couple of years, I know that we as a political family and we as a political movement will be starting the next campaign from a much better place.
And so there you have it. Steven Del Duca, very gracious speech. He thanked his parents. He thanked his wife. He thanked his children. He thanked all the volunteers. He thanked all of the candidates who ran. He also was using a teleprompter tonight. Steven Del Duca, I covered the beginning of the campaign and saw him on some of the campaign. He had a knack for being able to deliver a message without a teleprompter, without even looking at notes. Tonight he stuck to the teleprompter and said some of the things that he said in a practice speech a little bit earlier. And you can see behind me right now, you know, the Liberal leader has decided to step down. All of the signs are coming down right now very quickly. Not really much of anything here to celebrate for the Liberal Party of Ontario. Not much of a showing that's different from what happened at the end of the last Parliament. They don't have a leader right now. They're going to have to find another leader. And so I can just say a bad night for the Liberals here. They expected more. They didn't get it tonight. That's it from Woodbridge. Back to you.
Thank you, Sean. And Steven Del Duca also saying in his speech that he's going to go to Canada's Wonderland on Sunday.
That's been a roller coaster of
that's good.
a few weeks for him.
I was wondering if he's going to ride the Behemoth, which is a term you could use to describe the PC win tonight as we take a look at the seat gains and losses. There we have it at dissolution 67, a pickup of 16 seats. 16 more seats for the Progressive Conservatives. The NDP down by 7. The Liberals really hoping for such a big bounce back in this after the just drubbing they took in 2018. Only win one more.
And they didn't even get official party status.
No.
You know, so that's 12, by the way. And they didn't even get there.
This is an important look, too, here at the popular vote, because you say, well, how did this all happen? Especially when you look at the popular vote between 2018 and 2022 for the Tories. It's essentially the same. But the NDP vote goes down, the Liberal vote goes up, there's a progressive split, and that allows the Conservatives to win so many more seats tonight.
Let's bring in our David Aiken. I'm going to see if blue, David. Take your magnifying glass. Show us what happened tonight.
Well, actually, I've been taking a spyglass and looking a little bit back. I think it's important to note how historic this win is from Doug Ford. This is a big victory. 83 seats, leading and elected. Could be maybe a seat or two more by the end of the night. 83 out of 124. So I looked it up, of course. So since the end of the Second World War, the biggest victory by a Conservative was the legendary Leslie Frost way back in 1955, and Leslie Frost won 84 seats in a 98-seat legislature. The number 2 for a Conservative, that's Mike Harris back in 1995. Harris won 82, but in a 130-seat legislature. Harris, 82, 95. And right after that now is Doug Ford at 82, 83 in a smaller legislature, 124. The all-time record for any Ontario election ever, that'd be David Peterson back in 87. He won 95 seats out of 130. So there you go. The New Democrats, they won 40 in 2018. They're down to 31. Northern Ontario changed quite a bit. Obviously, all the orange is the New Democrats. Thunder Bay Atikokan, that was a late result. The PCs are leading in Thunder Bay Atikokan. Almost every poll is counted. The NDPs in second place. That's a really surprising pickup for these historic Ford PCs. But then when we zoom in onto sort of the meat and potatoes, again, take a look at all the blue. A historic victory for Doug Ford. Now, Steven Del Duca has resigned. And why is that? Well, folks, this is 2022. That's 2018. 2022, he got Kingston back, Del Duca did, but that's about it. Not a whole lot of change, and that's an indictment on Del Duca. It's an indictment on the Liberal Party organization. Frankly, they got some smart guys in their back room. I'm not sure it was the smartest campaign. It was undisciplined at times. Last week, we saw Del Duca call Andrea Horwath a misogynist and a sexist. sort of boggles the mind how you think that's a winning strategy. So there you go. And for the NDP, as they start to shoot for a new leader, I really thought that they were going to lose, say, seats in London North Centre. London North Centre, you remember that's London Fanshawe. London North Centre is right there. The New Democrat held here, Terence Kernaghan, that was the incumbent. Kate Graham finished third, the Liberal. You'll remember, guys, like about, a week and a half ago, Kate Graham put out a poll in which she said she was winning by a significant margin. You shouldn't do that if you're a candidate. Let the pollsters do the polling and candidates do the candidating. So anyways, the NDP held here. They held in Kitchener. We want to look at 2022. The NDP held in Kitchener. They only won Windsor West. They lost Windsor Tecumseh. They lost Essex. And I'm surprised, really, that they lost in York South-Weston, where Michael Ford won. So here we go, the generational thing. Doug Ford, the Premier, he's got his nephew just next door in York South-Weston, a riding that Conservatives have never, ever won. A strange night all around.
All right. Thank you for that, David. And you can imagine the federal Conservative candidates will be looking at what happened tonight very, very closely as that race goes on.
You may be wondering what is with the one in under other. That's in Haldeman, Norfolk, where Bobby Ann Brady has won in Toby Barrett's old riding. Toby Barrett, the progressive Conservative, but instead of backing the PC candidate Ken Hewitt in this riding, he actually endorsed the independent, and she has won, an independent member returning to Queen's Park.
Let's go over to Daryl Brooker now from Ipsos in our newsroom. Daryl, popular vote, in line. Is it in line with your polling, what you've seen?
Within a point of for every party that we looked at tonight. It's actually a pretty good performance in polling for Global News tonight. You guys had the best poll out in the campaign, and it's very, very close to what the final results are. But the interesting thing on this, Farah, is it's almost identical to the first poll that we did in the campaign. The most action we saw in this entire campaign was tonight, with two party leaders resigning. Apart from that, there was really not been much going on in this campaign. It's been pretty stable over the entire 4 to 5 weeks.
Daryl, we talked so much over the course of this campaign about the progressive primary. Mm-hmm. And the tail of the tape here shows us that the NDP at 31, the Liberals at 8, that the NDP win it. But then popular vote, the NDP go down, the Liberals go up. The Liberals still aren't at official party status. I mean, who actually won the progressive primary?
Well, who won the progressive primary was actually the progressive Conservatives. Because what you see in the popular vote, I think we're going to end up with the NDP or the Liberals slightly ahead of each other in terms of the popular vote. It hasn't been determined yet, but it's a perfect split. It worked perfectly for Doug Ford in the Progressive Conservative Party, since the progressive voters did not get behind a single choice. Couldn't have split the vote any more perfectly than they did tonight, so the big winner is there. But the other thing that we saw tonight is turnout is way, way down. And that was something that advantaged both the New Democrats and especially the Progressive Conservatives against the Liberals.
Daryl, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right. We've got to sneak in a quick break, but there's a lot more analysis ahead. We'll be back with more election coverage on the other side of this.
We're going to get to work tomorrow, right away. There's no rest. I don't believe in resting.
So job one, what's your priority?
Well, we sit down with the team and we're going to talk to the people. I'm having a press conference tomorrow.
And how are you going to celebrate tonight?
I don't know, just with the people. I love the people.
That's Doug Ford at his victory celebration on his way out. He'll be holding a press conference. You heard him say that tomorrow, and he's going to get right back to work.
Get it done. That's what the slogan was, get it done. Let's go to Tracy Tong. She's joined by our panel for some insight on so many different stories that happened tonight. Tracy.
We have heard that a lot, get it done, and I have a feeling we will not stop hearing it for the next few years. Well, we want to welcome back our panelists who have been providing their insights and analysis of all of the action tonight. We have Conservative Member of Parliament and former spokesperson for Doug Ford's Ontario PCs back in 2018 in that election, Melissa Lansman, Sarbjeet Kaur, who was a Liberal staffer and communications expert, and longtime NDP strategist Kim Wright. Melissa, we saw tonight a huge victory for Doug Ford. Does it signify a total victory now that both of the other party leaders have stepped down?
Well, I think it is a big victory. I don't think there's anything that you can take away from that victory. A full-scale sort of campaign, a disciplined campaign about getting it done, about getting back to work. You heard him just now saying he's going to work tomorrow. Press conferences start. He was in your face every single day during the pandemic, and I'm sure that won't stop. And look, in terms of his opposition, we're going to have two opposition parties who obviously split the vote tonight, thrown into their own leadership. So, you know, the next year in Ontario politics, I think, will be interesting from that sense. But for Doug Ford, it presents an opportunity for him to get to work because he's got the confidence of Ontarians pretty widely.
And you did just mention the other two parties are going to be looking for a refresh of sorts. The Liberals, Sarbjeet, were already looking for that this time around. I think a lot of voters were looking for someone who was a complete departure from Kathleen Wynne. And Steven Del Duca just wasn't that. He was too closely tied. So who needs to lead the party?
You know, I think if you look at the vote split, it shows that the policy and people still want to vote Liberal. What they need is a way to avoid that vote split, to get those voters to rally around one leader. So that person's going to have to be somebody really inspiring that is going to get people behind them. And, you know, it's been a long time since, the McGuinty government, which is the government that I worked in. And you look at the demographics of voters, a huge contingent is millennial voters, and you look at the low voter turnout, and we're thinking about we're going to have to get those voters to come out. The turnout's going to have to be higher. What's going to attract them? Fresh ideas, fresh faces, someone who's going to get people excited. So it'll be very interesting to see who that someone turns out to be.
Yeah. And Kim, Andrea Horwath has led the NDP party for so long. She's been a real figurehead for the party. Who is she going to pass the torch on to?
Well, the good news is that we have official party status. In fact, we're the official opposition again. So that's really a testament to her leadership, the way that she rebuilt the party. And so again, thank you to Andrea Horvath and the team that was around her. How she passes that torch, we'll see over the coming days how the technical parts of that. There's also a lot of MPPs from across the province, rural, urban, northern, southern, to choose from. It's a really interesting caucus. We'll see how that comes together. But again, having the money in the bank, having a really good strength to build on for the future. You know, Sarbjeet was mentioning this. You know, 40% of Ontarians voted for the Premier. That meant 60% didn't. So there's a lot in there. And for those who are disheartened by election results, votes are cast, and that's how it shakes out. But if you don't like the results, organize for better. And we've got a leadership campaign, so I think there's going to be lots of phone lines burning up on some organizers right now.
Now, the other big lingering question is about Andrea Horwath's political career. What happens to her in the next few hours when it comes to decision making, and whether her popularity could potentially translate to other levels of government. There are only rumors swirling out there.
There are always rumors swirling, and I'll tell you, I'm a municipal affairs expert. It is what I do and love, and there's a lot of mayoralty jobs and council jobs that are up and running across the province, and they have until August 19th at 2 p.m. to file their paperwork. So we'll see in the coming days how that all unfolds.
Now, I just want to take a look here at the popular vote tonight, and it shows the Liberals and NDP both won about 23%. Do the parties on the center left need to change strategies here so that vote isn't split?
I think it's really comes down to how do you come out of the gate with a swagger in your step of a campaign? What is it that you're going to inspire people? One of the things I really took from Andrea's campaign and over the last few years has been how she connects with Ontarians, how she brings their issues, their experiences forward. You need to have that in a leader and that they can be inspired to that things can change.
Yeah, and Sarbjeet, how does the Liberal strategy need to change to monetize more on that popular vote?
You know, I think they're really going to capitalize on that message that they've been trying to put out, that only the Liberals can beat the Conservatives. I mean, you know, unfortunately, the NDP were not able to hold on to their gains. This was probably their best shot, if they ever had, of defeating and becoming the leading party. And the next time around, people are not going to be wanting to take that risk, that if they really want change, they're going to throw their support behind one party. And, you know, I think that there's a very good chance that that party will again turn out to be the Liberal Party.
All right, Melissa, I'm going to give you the last word here, and you know Doug Ford well after having worked with him closely. What's he doing tonight?
Oh, look, I think he's celebrating, and he's celebrating in that crowd of people, and I will take this opportunity to give a shout out to the new MPP in Thornhill. I really look forward to serving the community with a brand new MPP by my side and serving them for a long time to come.
Well, listen, panelists, we have had a wonderful time speaking with you tonight. Thank you so much for your insightful comments and leading us through all of the ups and downs of this election coverage tonight. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Farah and Alan, I'll send it back to you.
All right, and Tracy, thank you for your great questions tonight. We did have quite a great panel. We were very lucky. We've got to sneak in a quick break. We'll be back with more election coverage right after this. Welcome back to Decision Ontario. The one riding we were watching all night was the race between incumbent Michael Tibolo and Liberal leader Steven Del Duca. Steven Del Duca lost that battle, and here is a clip of Michael Tibolo wishing him well.
I want to wish him the best in whatever he decides to pursue in the future. I know that this is my path forward now, to continue working and to continue advocating on behalf of the people of Vaughan-Woodbridge. They've spoken very clearly tonight about the work that I've done and what the expectations are of me. And 4 years from now, they'll get another opportunity, maybe he will, to check the report card and see if I'm still the right person for the job or not. But I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to work really hard, as I have in the past 4 years, and I'm going to deliver not just for the people of Vaughan-Woodbridge, but for the province of Ontario.
Let's get back to PC headquarters now, and my colleague from AM 640 Toronto's Greg Brady. And Greg, first of all, don't you have to be on the air in a couple of hours? And secondly, what was the mood like there tonight with that kind of monstrous win for Doug Ford?
Well, Alan and Farr, I always wanted to be on Late Night with Stephen Colbert, but maybe leading into Late Night with Stephen Colbert is the next best thing, really, I think. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, that's the name of it. When they went Letterman to Colbert, they switched. What was the atmosphere like? I mean, instantaneously triumphant. People came. You don't get this at a sporting event. You don't know if your team's going to win or lose, but everybody showed up, and it's like knowing the Leafs are going to win, knowing the Raptors are going to win the NBA championship in a given game. So it was triumphant. It was bold. And Doug Ford's speech, though it wandered, I thought had an element of trying to put the pieces, the jigsaw pieces of Ontario back together. I thought it was tremendously classy to say how hard it is to be in politics in this day and age. The three of us know that. How hard it is to be a party leader. And he gave them all compliments by name. We'll see how long that lasts, but there's going to be a honeymoon period, I think we'd agree, going into the summer and fall with this mandate that he's got.
Yeah, it certainly was gracious of him, Greg, in that speech. And you're right. He reached out to so many different groups trying to make that tent a lot wider for the PCs.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate that. Let's get back to David Aiken with some final thoughts on the night. David?
Let's take a look at the results map. Here's the results map from the 2021 federal election. That's 8 months ago. See all the red here? All the voters who live here voted for Justin Trudeau. But tonight, all the voters who live here, it's the same voters, it's identical riding boundaries. Look at all that blue. So that was Trudeau red 8 months ago. Now it's Doug Ford blue. Why? Doug Ford is not an ideologue. He's a middle-of-the-road, moderate conservative. He talked a lot about, and I know we joke about it, getting stuff done. A very sort of kitchen table aimed at working people. He wasn't talking about firing the Bank of Canada governor. He was talking about some very practical things. And the voters around here thought, that's a pretty good idea. I'm going to vote for him. Now the federal Conservatives are deciding how to choose a leader. Jean Charest, Patrick Brown, Scott Aitchison are saying, we need to win here, just like Doug Ford has now done twice. Pierre Poilievre, Leslyn Lewis, Roman Baber, a former MPP from York Centre, they want to do something about redefining Conservatives. But you heard Doug Ford tonight in his speech. He said, we have redefined what it means to be a progressive Conservative in Ontario. I'm sorry, but that cannot but have an impact on the federal Conservative leadership race. By the way, the membership cutoff starts tomorrow. Because again, this is 2 times in a row for Doug Ford. Sure, last time around, a traffic pylon beats Kathleen Wynne. We all get that. He had to campaign, though. Doug Ford, it was Doug Ford that people were voting on. He was the moderate, middle-of-the-road Conservative. That's how you win these seats and win government at Queen's Park. And when you win, as Justin Trudeau did all of that, you're also the government in the House of Commons in Ottawa. And that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Good night, guys.
Thank you, David.
Oh, it's so nice to have you on our election coverage, David. Thank you.
Very much. Appreciate it.
We've talked about this, you and I. Right now, the way Doug Ford is, I mean, he became a folk hero in a way during the pandemic, right? He was there every single day, but that wasn't what happened right after the first time he was voted. And what do you think changed? Was it the pandemic? Was it something else?
To my mind, it was something we were there for in July of 2019. It was the Raptors victory parade. And you might remember that Justin Trudeau is introduced, big cheer. Doug Ford's introduced, he gets booed.
And it visibly bothered him.
And it really,
you could
really
tell.
burked
He likes to be liked,
And shortly after that, he shuffled his cabinet. And then shortly after that, there was a scandal and he changed his chief of staff. And then we saw kind of a really sort of a different Doug Ford, a little more professional in terms of the Premier's office, a little more roped down. He didn't get into the kind of slugging match with the Trudeau that he had been in the past. And I think that was kind of marked a change in Doug Ford.
Certainly. I mean, and you see, again, he's trying to reach out to so many different demographics, telling everybody everyone's included. And, you know, as we all reimagine our future after COVID, he's saying that, you know, he's reimagining a future for this party and also for the province.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Doug Ford and the Conservatives with another major majority. Have a great night.